Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Web Audio TV. If you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button.
Have you found out who they are? Lu Tingxiao looked as if he would kill them if he found out. Lu Jingli knocked on the table. That's the point I want to tell you. Even with my intelligence network, I still can't find out who they are. It seems that we have to wait for them to make a move again. The devil's eyes could already kill people. How could he wait for them to make a move again? Lu Tingxiao immediately made a call. His tone was as cold as the wind blowing from the glacier. Cheng Feng, help me investigate 2 people. Lu Jingli looked surprised. Wow, even the Jinni guards have been dispatched. His brother's intelligence network was naturally incomparable to his gossip network. He could dig out your background with just a little clue. Brother, I told you that Ning Xi's past is not simple. Do you believe me now? I think you'd better ask Cheng Feng to investigate Ning Xi, Lu Jingli suggested earnestly. No need. Everyone had their own past that they didn't want others to know. He wouldn't touch the part that she didn't want others to know. If she wanted to tell him, he would tell him. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the shooting was finally over. Today's main scenes were all about the male and female leads. Ning Xi didn't have many scenes, but she still had to be a vase for the whole day. Being a vase was also very tiring. Her neck was about to break and she had rashes all over her body. After changing and removing her makeup, she put on her mask and was ready to take the subway. She wasn't famous now and few people knew her. It was convenient to take the subway and there was no traffic jam. She was walking towards the station when a black Maserati stopped beside her. The window was lowered and Suyan looked at her with a smile. Zioxi, let me drive you. Ning Xi, ex-boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend again. Couldn't he give her a break for a while? No need. Ning Xi walked straight ahead. She didn't want to face the face that made her nauseous. Suyan followed her slowly and refused to leave. Zioxi, let's talk, okay. Ning Xi sneered. What do I have to talk to you about? Do you think I haven't had enough scandals today? Do you want to be photographed and then give them a bigger one? Suyan frowned. He was not used to the cold attitude of the little girl who used to be so obedient to him. Zioxi, I didn't mean that. I really have something important to talk to you about. If she continued to be entangled with him on the road, she was afraid that she would really be photographed. This guy's car was so eye-catching. Ning Xi looked around. Making sure there was no one around, she quickly opened the door and got in. Half an hour later, in a private room of a restaurant, Suyan called the waiter over and ordered a bunch of dishes, most of which were her favorites. Zioxi, long time no see. I don't know if your taste has changed. How have you been abroad all these years? I transferred money to you, but you returned all of it. In the end, you even changed your account. If you have something to say, say it. Ning Xi propped her head up and sent a text message to Xiaobao, informing him that she would be returning late. Suyan had no choice but to push a check in front of her. Ning Xi glanced at the check and narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? Suyan looked at her sternly. Zioxi, don't do anything you'll regret. Ning Xi put down her cell phone and looked at him with a faint smile. Oh, tell me, what did I do? Then tell me, how did you get this role? Suyan suddenly said seriously. How do you think I came here? Ning Xi crossed her arms, leaned back in the chair and asked casually. Suyan couldn't bear it anymore and pounded the table. Ning Xi, you know better than me what a girl like you will encounter in the entertainment circle. Why do you have to get involved in the entertainment circle? Well, a girl like me. Ning Xi chuckled. I wonder what kind of identity young Master Su is speaking to me like this today. If she had heard these words, she would have gone hysterical. Suyan said that he didn't want his future wife to enter the entertainment circle, but Ning Xi fully supported him. Now he was still criticizing her life. Zioxi, even though we broke up, I have always regarded you as my sister. I just want to help you. Can you not be so stubborn? Take the money, terminate the contract with Xingui and leave the entertainment circle? Suyan tried to persuade her. Oh, help me. Ning Xi's lazy gaze suddenly became piercingly cold. Speaking of which, I do have a favor that needs young Master Su's help. I hope you can help me tell the truth to the Ning family and testify in court that Ning Xi bribed 2 men to rape me. Will you help me? Zioxi, Suyan's face turned pale. If I do this, Xi will be finished. Besides, Xi didn't rape you. You went into the wrong room and then had sex with someone else. Although it was an expected answer, Ning Xi's heart still ached. She said sarcastically, so you mean you didn't do anything wrong at that time? It was my fault to be drunk, drugged and raped. It was also my fault to be pregnant with a bastard and give birth to a stillborn baby? Suyan frowned. Zioxi, I didn't mean that. Xi and I have apologized to you and have been trying to make it up to you for so many years. Why can't you let it go? Ning Xi picked up her bag and stood up. Oh, you want me to let it go? Wait until your Xue Luo is raped by someone and she is pregnant with his bastard child. When you are able to shake hands with the other party and happily wear a green hat, then come and beg me? Suyan's face suddenly changed. Ning Xi, how can you say that? Yo, I just said it verbally, and you're so distressed. You don't know pain until it happens to you, right? You expect me to forgive you? I'm not such a saint. Ning Xi said and strode away. How unlucky. She shouldn't have talked so much with Suyan. It was so disgusting that she couldn't even eat dinner tonight. He had to hurry home and hug little Bun to heal. As soon as Ning Xi walked to the gate of the Lu's house, she saw a white and cute little bun running towards her. It seemed like he had been waiting for her by the window since early in the morning. As expected, Ning Xi was instantly healed. As usual, she gave the little bun a super big one. Baby, have you eaten before? I sent you a text to tell you not to wait for me to eat. Did you listen? Little bun nodded. Good boy. Ning Xi kissed little bun again as a reward. You play by yourself first. Auntie will go change and take a shower. Little bun nodded. Hand in hand, the two of them walked towards the gate. On the second floor, Lu Tingxiao looked a little melancholic as he looked at the scene below. He never knew that he was such a jealous person. He was even beginning to be jealous of his son. Ning Xi kissed his son twice the moment she came back, and he could only watch from afar. After returning to her room, the first thing Ning Xi did was to take off her bra. Wearing this on a hot summer day was simply torture. Okay. She reached out to unbutton the back and was pulling the bra out. Halfway through, the door behind her was pushed open with a creak. Ning. Lu Tingxiao was stunned after saying one word. His hand was still in the position of pushing the door open as he looked at the situation in the room in astonishment. Ning Xi kept that awkward posture. She didn't know whether to pull it out or stuff it back. It was really miserable. To make matters worse, the bra she was wearing today was custom made for her. There was a triangular Superman logo printed on both sides, which was very eye-catching. Lu Tingxiao obviously noticed it. He raised his eyebrows slightly but didn't show any more shock. He coughed and said, "Sorry, I didn't close the door." Then he was about to leave. "It's okay. It's my fault. I forgot to close the door." Ning Xi pretended to be calm, pulled out the bra, stuffed it under the quilt, and fanned herself with her hand. "Well, it's too hot in the summer. You men won't understand women's worries? Well, what's the matter? Why did you come back so late? Did you have a date?" Lu Tingxiao asked casually. "What date? I met a very annoying person, so I just chatted with him," Ning Xi mumbled. It was definitely not a date. Lu Tingxiao's face softened a little. "I left some food for you. Eat it after your shower. Actually, I can solve the problem of eating by myself," Ning Xi said embarrassedly. "You don't need to talk to me." Okay." After Lu Tingxiao left, Ning Xi quickly locked the door from the inside. She didn't realize that she had made such a low-level mistake in her own home. She had to be careful in the future. After taking a shower and eating, Ning Xi comfortably nestled in bed and began to surf the internet. Little Bun was lying on the table, reading a big book. Ning Xi confessed her love to her handsome boyfriend in public. Best actor Zhao was jealous on the spot. Ning Xi praised Ning Xi's beauty and strength. Ning Xi deserves to be the most beautiful girl in the entertainment circle. She crushed Jia Qingxing. Meng Chang'e won the favor at the opening ceremony of the World. Ning Xi handsome boyfriend visited the set on the first day of the World. Looking at the rich pursuers of the new star Ning Xi, roses piled up on the set on the first day of the World. Up to this point, it was still normal, but then it became more and more strange. It evolved into Ning Xi has a sugar daddy, Ning Xi has a sugar daddy, Ning Xi has a foot in many boats, Ning Xi's private life is messy. Ning Xi had been prepared when she was on the set, so she was calm when she saw this. She knew that even if the incident between Zhang Mui and YS hadn't happened that day, with her current image, she would still be involved in these scandals sooner or later. Those gossips all used ambiguous words, and there was no conclusive evidence. They were afraid that if one thing was repeated too many times, people would believe it regardless of whether it was true or not. "Do you need help?" Lu Tingxiao's voice sounded in her ears. Ning Xi got up with the laptop in her arms, held her chin and smiled. "Boss Lu, are you going to cheat on me?" "Why not?" Lu Tingxiao handed her and Xiaobao a glass of milk. "Yours is low fat." "Thank you." Ning Xi was flattered, took the cup and said, "Thank you for your kindness, but there's no need. I believe time will prove everything." "I believe you," Lu Tingxiao said. Ning Xi was stunned, and then she held her forehead helplessly. "Lu Tingxiao, has anyone told you that you are really good at flirting with girls?" "Flirting with girls?" Lu Tingxiao looked suspicious. Obviously, he didn't know what these words meant. "Well, it means to make girls happy," Ning Xi explained simply. Lu Tingxiao's eyes lit up. "I'm glad to hear your comment. Does this mean that I've pleased you?" As soon as he said that, the atmosphere immediately became ambiguous. Ning Xi's cheeks immediately heated up, and she was annoyed. That was his fault. That was his fault for bringing up such a dangerous topic. Fortunately, Lu Tingxiao knew when to stop. "I'm going to the study to read some documents. You two remember to rest early. Good night." Ning Xi, "Good night." Xiaobao. Although Xiaobao didn't say anything, his face clearly said, "Go, don't disturb me and Aunt Xioxi." The next morning, after Ning Xi left, Lu Tingxiao called Lu Jingli worriedly. "Send someone to keep an eye on the crew." "Brother, are you worried that someone will bully sister-in-law?" "These are all necessary experiences on the road to fame. It's good for her to train. If she doesn't go through all this, she won't be able to hold her own in the future." Lu Jingli imitated Lu Tingxiao's tone when he lectured him. Lu Tingxiao replied, "She doesn't need it." In other words, he was there to protect her. Lu Jingli. Hehe. Lu Jingli's heart sank at his brother's differential treatment. "That's not what you said when you kicked me into Golden Era's mess and forbade anyone from helping me." All right, I'll send someone to keep an eye on her. I'll make sure she doesn't lose a single hair. I'll give you a week off next month." Lu Tingxiao suddenly said. What? Brother, what did you just say? Lu Jingli thought he was hallucinating. You're giving me a week off. You haven't given me a break in 3 years. You don't want it. Yes. Of course I want it. But, why are you suddenly so nice to me? Lu Jingli could not figure it out and tried to recall what he had just said. In the end, he came to the conclusion that the problem lay in one word, sister-in-law. Just because he called Ning Xi sister-in-law, this holiday really made him happy and sad at the same time. Young master, Dr. Qin is here. The maid's voice came from outside the study. A slender man stood beside the maid. He was dressed casually and had a gentle face. His smile was gentle and he looked very approachable. Lu Tingxiao hung up and turned to look at the man. You're here. Have a seat. Qin Mufeng put down his bag and sat on the sofa. What's wrong? Xiaobao isn't feeling well? You can go see for yourself, he's in the kitchen. Lu Tingxiao replied. Kitchen. Qin Mufeng raised an eyebrow and walked to the kitchen. Qin Mufeng returned after a while. Since when did Xiaobao have a hobby of making juice? And he seems to be in a good mood? Did something happen? Something did happen during this period of time. A few days ago, I was too busy with work and didn't have time to take care of Xiaobao. In the end, Jingli secretly brought him to a bar. Lu Tingxiao gave him a simple explanation. Qin Mufeng's expression changed as he listened. In the end, he said happily, Xiaobao has profited from his misfortune? As I said before, Xiaobao's current state is too desireless. If there is a driving force that can interest him, it will be of great help to his illness. Moreover, he is a living person right now. You didn't keep the girl to be Xiaobao's nanny or tutor. Lu Tingxiao, she will be Xiaobao's future mother. Cough. Qin Mufeng looked at Lu Tingxiao's expressionless face in surprise. What did you say? Are you doing this for Xiaobao, or for yourself? Lu Tingxiao's cold expression seemed to melt. He looked out of the window and said slowly, Dr. Qin, I think your previous conclusion is correct. You like this girl. Qin Mufeng was thrilled to hear that. I told you my judgment wouldn't be wrong. How could you be asexual? Hurry up and tell me what's going on. When you see her, does your heart beat faster and your blood boil? Do you want to get close to her and have sex with her? Lu Tingxiao looked down and thought about it seriously for a while. Then he nodded. Basically, he had once asked Qin Mufeng what it felt like to like someone, and Qin Mufeng had said that he would know when he met that person. At the time, he had felt that it was too abstract. It was only after he met Ning Xi that he realized that it was the truth. Congratulations to you. Many asexuals will never meet such a person in their lifetime. Qin Mufeng congratulated his old friend sincerely. In addition to heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality, in this world, there is also a type of sexuality called asexual. Asexuality didn't mean that one had a physical problem, or that he was uncertain about his sexual orientation, or that he was afraid of intimacy. To put it simply, it meant that he had no interest in sex. Because of this problem, his mother had even urged Lu Jingli to drug him 5 years ago. This is double happiness. When will I attend your wedding? Qin Mufeng teased. I'm working on it. Lu Tingxiao, who had always been successful, had a rare look of uncertainty on his face. Qin Mufeng was surprised. I didn't expect it to be the current tense. I thought President Lu would be the past tense. The girl that you like is indeed not an ordinary girl? So, you came to me this time because you want me to teach you how to woo a girl? Although I'm not as experienced as second young master, I have plenty of theoretical experience. Why did everyone want to teach him how to woo a girl? Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. That's not necessary. I asked you to confirm the impact of her appearance on Xiaobao. After the joke, Qin Mufeng got down to business. It's like this. There are two sides to every coin. Although this is a good thing, as you said, Xiaobao smashed up the house to see her. So it depends on how you guide him. Regardless of whether you're doing it out of selfishness or not, it's the right strategy to keep her at home for the time being. Next, I suggest that you ask that girl to help you bring Xiaobao out more often. When the time is right, you can even send him to school and let him live a normal life step by step. I've tried for 2 years and still haven't succeeded. Maybe she can. Got it. I'll try. Film City. As soon as Ning Xi entered the set, the whispers stopped immediately. Everyone looked at her with a strange look. It seemed that the gossip had spread. In the corner, someone muttered in a strange tone, What? He's just a newcomer and yet he's so late. Didn't he see that teacher Ning arrived so early? In fact, there was nothing wrong with Ning Xi's arrival today. It was just that Ning Xue came too early. Mr. Ning, you and Ningxi are in the same company. Is the gossip on the internet true? Someone even said that she slept with a lot of us for this role. That's too shameless? Does Starlight not care about this sort of unfair competition? Faced with everyone's questions, Ning Xuluo's face showed a hint of helplessness. She sighed and said, It's all based on our own abilities. The company won't interfere. After saying that, he suddenly realized that he had said something wrong and added, I don't mean that junior sister really did those things. You can't believe the rumors on the internet. However, saying this now was like trying to cover something up. Everyone was even more certain that those things were true. It wasn't until the director came over to urge everyone to hurry up and get to work that the chatter finally dispersed. The innocent expression on Ning Xuluo's face disappeared instantly. She called her assistant over and asked in a low voice, How's the thing I asked you to do? Sister Xuluo, don't worry. It's done. Didn't you say that she's allergic to metal? I put metal powder in the makeup artist's powder puff when no one was paying attention. I'm sure her whole face will be ruined. Today, Ning Xi was going to shoot a dance scene. Different from yesterday's heavy palace dress, today's clothes were very light. She could finally take a breather. When she entered the dressing room, Ning Xi was stunned. She didn't expect to see Jia Qingqing. She had thought that Jia Qingqing wouldn't come. Jia Qingqing had been rejected in the audition, so the director had invited her to play the third female role, concubine Xian. The third female lead was also a devilish concubine, but she had fewer scenes than Ning Xi, and she was tortured badly by Ning Xi in the movie. Although her agent had helped Jia Qingqing accept the invitation, she was extremely dissatisfied. She didn't even attend the opening ceremony and even said that she was going to quit. Ning Xi guessed that she must have heard the news that the crew had received a big investment, so she came today. After all, it was a big production with 100 million yuan investment. Jia Qingqing was putting on makeup. When she saw Ning Xi in the mirror, she immediately frowned and didn't hide her disgust at all. Like Ning Xi, she had a rich father, so she had always been arrogant and domineering on the set and had a bad reputation. However, her water army was very good, so they whitewashed her as a straightforward person and made her the gimmick of the most beautiful woman in the entertainment circle. Therefore, Jia Qingqing hated Ning Xi, who had robbed her of her role and fame. Hey, isn't this the most beautiful woman in the entertainment circle? You have so many rich men supporting you, but you still come to squeeze into the dressing room with us small actresses? Jia Qingqing sneered. Ning Xi sat down on a chair and began to read the script. She wasn't affected at all. She had a special characteristic. Once she was on the set, she would put all her focus on her work. No one or anything could affect her state. Ning Xi, what do you mean? Are you ignoring me? Jia Qingqing threw the comb in her hand. Ning Xi continued to read the script as if she didn't hear it at all. At this time, the makeup artist couldn't stand it anymore. She coughed and said, Ning Xi is wearing earphones. I guess she didn't hear it. Only then did Jia Qingqing see the two small white earphones in Ning Xi's ears. She suddenly felt as if she had punched cotton. Bitch, who knew if she didn't hear it or did it on purpose? Of course Ning Xi did it on purpose. As soon as she saw Jia Qingqing, she immediately took out the earphones and plugged them in, pretending not to hear it. In this case, as long as there was a conflict, no matter who was right or wrong, it would be no good for her. It would be much easier now. Miss Jia, it's done. Are you satisfied with it? The makeup artist's tone was cautious. Obviously, she knew that this person was not easy to get along with. Jia Qingqing said without even looking at her. Regenerate? Jia Qingqing said without even looking at it. What is it that you're not satisfied with? The makeup artist asked. Not satisfied at all. The makeup artist's face stiffened, but she could only remove her makeup and redo it for her. Seeing that Ning Xi completely ignored her, Jia Qingqing became angrier and kept finding fault with the makeup artist. The makeup artist didn't dare to give Jia Qingqing a dirty look. She could only glare at Ning Xi in the corner resentfully. She also knew that Jia Qingqing was targeting Ning Xi, and she was just implicated. Jia to Xi to Jia, and Jia was, Ning to say, Xi, and, Xia Jiali, Jia Qing, from Jia, and was, and Xi, Yan, Xi. When she was about to put on Ning Xi's makeup, the makeup artist smashed her things and shouted coldly, Ning Xi, come here and put on your makeup. Ning Xi put down the script and walked over. Thank you. The makeup artist was about to put on her makeup reluctantly when Ning Xi glanced at her makeup tools and suddenly raised her hand to stop her. What are you doing? Ning Xi said modestly, Sister can I use my own makeup? My skin is sensitive, and I might be allergic to other brands. No, there is no such rule. Will you be responsible if the makeup is not good? Weren't you fine yesterday? I said impatiently, as if she was a busybody. Ning Xi took out a red paper bag from her bag and quietly put it on I's palm. Sister please make an exception. After all, we rely on our looks to make a living in this line of work. I'm just in case. I pinched the thickness of the red packet, coughed softly and said reluctantly, okay, but if the director says there's a problem with the makeup, you'll be responsible. Of course, I won't let Sister get into trouble. There were no eternal enemies in this industry. I felt much better after receiving the red packet. She put more effort into putting on Ning Xi's makeup, and the final effect was better than yesterday. After the makeup artist left, Ning Xi crossed her arms over her chest and looked up and down at the costume she was going to wear today. Then she took out a large magnet from her bag and carefully scanned the costume as if it were a security check. After that, he also went through the shoes. Fortunately, there was no problem. Ning Xi put the magnet back and clicked her tongue. She thought to herself, so unprofessional? There should be a small needle sewn into the costume so that you would feel pain everywhere, but you couldn't find the problem. There should be a small thumbtack in the solace of the shoes. You wouldn't feel it when you walked, but once you made big movements, it would definitely be painful. Compared with Ning Xi, who had always been protected, Ning Xi had seen a lot of things after struggling at the bottom of the industry for so many years. How could she not see through her little tricks? Although she couldn't check the makeup just now, Ning Xi knew that her skin was allergic to metal, so she would probably make a fuss about it. After Ning Xi changed her costume, the dance teacher hired by the director was already waiting outside. Ning Xi followed the teacher to learn the dance moves while the others were filming. When they finished filming, the director came over to check the results. Ning Xi, how's it going? I read that you've learned dance before, so I think half a day is enough. Or I can give you a few more days. It should be fine. Ning Xi didn't want to be too confident. Guo Qixin looked at the dance teacher. Mr. Zhang, what do you think? The dance teacher chuckled. You'll see for yourself later. Alright, let's begin. Okay, let's start. Characters, the Emperor, Concubine De, Concubine Xian, Concubine Xiu, Imperial Concubine, Eunuchs, etc. Recently, there had been a consort selection, and a large number of young girls had come in. The Emperor had summoned a group of beauties and favored concubines to drink and make merry in the palace. The Emperor placed all his attention on the newlyweds, and even the most favored concubine De was neglected. Before Concubine De, the most favored concubine was Concubine Xian. Seeing that Concubine De was also neglected, Concubine Xian gloated, in this harem, it's always the newcomers who laugh at the old who cry. Does she think that His Majesty's heart will be with her for the rest of his life because of her beauty? This consort wants to see how many more days she can be so proud of herself? Probably because it was Ning Xi who played Concubine De. Jia Qingxing, who was not good at acting, played Concubine Xian very well this time. The director was very satisfied. Words 1049 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 11 seconds. Ning Xi reclined on the chaise longue and drank. It was noisy around her, but she seemed to be in another world. The liquor slid down her red lips, down her slender neck, and into her tempting clothes. The scene was so beautiful that all the men on the scene couldn't take their eyes off her. The cameraman deliberately zoomed in to give her a close-up. The wind sweeps through the village in the dark rain, the sound of the four mountains makes the waves roll. Ning Xi recited the poem drunkenly and stood up shakily. The next second, she threw the glass away and began to dance. The firewood in the stream is soft and warm, the raccoon and I don't go out. Her slender waist was like a willow branch. She bent to the bottom and then bounced up. The hazy veil danced in the wind and her eyes were like silk. Lying in a lonely village without sorrow, thinking of defending the country, she picked up the flagon on the table and drank it up. Her dazzling movements were not so much dance steps, but more like a war dance on the battlefield. In an instant, she transformed from a seductive fairy into a general on the battlefield. She was even more stunning than before. The real identity of Concubine De was the female general Meng Chang'e. The Meng family had fought for the country for generations, but in the end, the whole family was killed and she was the only one left. She sneaked into the palace not only to kill the enemy but also to overthrow the world. Not far away, the emperor didn't realize the danger at all. He was immersed in the beauty and held the glass for a long time. He was stunned. Seeing the enthusiasm and obsession in the emperor's eyes, Concubine Xian and the new concubines were full of jealousy. Lying down at night, listening to the wind and the rain, the iron horse and the glacier come to my dream, the iron horse and the glacier come to my dream, the iron horse and the glacier come to my dream. Ning Xi repeated the last sentence 3 times. Once in a trance, once in sorrow, and the last time, it was the resolution of the dust settling. As soon as she finished, she seductively leaned into the emperor's arms, bewitching his heart and continuing her road of revenge. At the end of the scene, the director almost forgot to cut. Cut. Very good. Guo Qixin was the first to applaud. Ning Xi's dance was good and professional. The most rare thing was that she expressed what I wanted. Everyone's expression was also very good. Old Fang, you don't need to say anything. What's rare is Qingqing. Her expression just now was on point. Jia Qingqing's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. How could it not be? She was truly jealous. Feng Yubo, who played the role of the emperor, was a veteran actor. He had worked with countless beauties before. At this moment, he couldn't help but laugh. Director Guo, I was really dazed just now. I wasn't acting. I've told you that junior sister is very capable. Ning Xi, who was watching from the side, also complimented her, but in reality, she was gritting her teeth so hard that they were about to break. As soon as they left, Ning Xi called the assistant to the side and questioned her. What's going on? It's been a whole morning, and there's no reaction at all. The assistant looked panicked. I put it in personally, and I even put some in the blush, eyeshadow, and highlights powder. Could it be that he hasn't sent it out yet? Ning Xi glared at her. That's impossible. If she touches these things, she will start to have red spots in half an hour. She had used this method to embarrass Ning Xi at her birthday party. Then it could only be that she didn't use those cosmetics at all. The little assistant said weakly. Idiot! Don't you have a backup plan and do something to her clothes? I didn't think of it at that time. Sister Swallow, don't be angry. I won't make a mistake next time. Ning Swallow suppressed her anger. This was just an accident. Anyway, there would be opportunities in the future. Maybe she didn't have to do it. Just now, Jia Qingqing looked at Ning Xi as if she wanted to eat her up. Ha, Ning Xi, do you think it's so easy to get this role? The higher you stand, the harder you fall. Words 978 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 11 seconds. Although Ning Xi had proved her acting skills this time, her reputation had not been saved. Instead, because of her good performance, people thought she was a fox. They even thought it was not an acting skill, but her true nature. The director was worried that she would lose her composure, so he comforted her before leaving. Ning Xi, don't worry. Your supporting actor will join the crew next month. The best part is yet to come. Ning Xi gave a wry smile. Director, who is the supporting actor of my show? You've been hiding it from us ever since you started filming. It's fine if you don't tell the media, but can't you tell us as well? I can't. What if you spill the beans? Anyway, what I can tell you is that the supporting actor is a big shot, Guo Qixin said mysteriously. Jia Qingqing, who was passing by, heard this and muttered disdainfully, he's just a supporting actor. How can he be a big shot? Can he be as big as the best actor Zhao Sihu? Don't you think so, Sister Swaluo? Ning Swaluo smiled and didn't speak. Apparently, she also thought that the director was exaggerating. Ning Xi ignored Jia Qingqing's sarcasm and followed Guo Qixin closely. Is he handsome? You can tell me, right? The supporting actor in the script is a miraculous doctor who makes all the daughters in the capital pretend to be sick. She had a lot of intimate scenes with the supporting actor. Not only did she have to flirt with him, but she also had several sex scenes. Kissing and hugging were common, so it was inevitable that she would care about him. Of course he is handsome. You will be satisfied. Just don't faint from excitement. Really? Director Guo, don't lie to me? I'll take it seriously. Time flew by and it was already August. She had been living in the Lu mansion for 2 weeks. Her relationship with Xiaobao was getting better, and her work in the crew was going smoothly. Ning Swaluo and Jia Qingqing had formed an alliance and played tricks every now and then. Although she saw through all of them, it was too tiring to be on guard every day. She was going to find a suitable time to get it over with once and for all. It was a little strange. She always felt that someone in the crew was secretly helping her. Several times when she missed something, she received subtle hints. Maybe someone couldn't stand Jia Qingqing's arrogant and domineering style. Ning Xi didn't think much about it. At present, the thing that gave her the biggest headache was picking up a certain annoying guy at the airport tonight. Today, when she was on set, she had been reminded by that guy's continuous calls more than 10 times. After work, Ning Xi made a trip back to the Lu residence. She wanted to go home to get her equipment. Lu Tingxiao was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper. When he saw her come back, he asked in an incomparably natural tone, "You're back. There's a new hot pot restaurant that opened recently. Do you want to take Xiaobao there tonight?" It was like asking his wife. Ning Xi was shocked by her own thoughts. It had only been more than half a month, but she had become so used to this way of getting along with Lu Tingxiao. The two of them brought Xiaobao along, and it really seemed like a family of 3 living together. Ning Xi shook her head to get rid of those strange thoughts and said awkwardly, "I'm afraid I can't tonight. I'm going to the airport to pick someone up and will probably come back very late." "Xiaobao wants to eat hot pot? Why don't you take Xiaobao to eat? If you're not here, he won't go out with me." "Ahem. All right, let's go together next time." Lu Tingxiao put down the newspaper and looked at her with an unfathomable gaze. "Picking up a friend? I guess so." Ning Xi nodded with some difficulty. "A man or a woman?" Wasn't this question a little out of line? It wasn't that Ning Xi didn't feel Lu Tingxiao's unusual attitude towards her, but Lu Tingxiao always stopped at the right time. If she behaved too aggressively, it would seem that she was too sentimental. So Ning Xi answered normally as if she had heard a very common question, "A man." Lu Tingxiao's deep eyes narrowed imperceptibly. "Will you come back tonight?" This question. Why is it getting more and more? Ning Xi pretended not to realize the ambiguity of this question and said as if nothing had happened, "I'm not sure yet. I'll call you later. I'm running out of time. I'm going upstairs." There were bound to be many unexpected situations tonight, and what if she couldn't help but beat Zhang Wei all night? Ning Xi hurriedly went upstairs and took a huge black satchel, then quickly hugged Little Bun and kissed him goodbye. Looking at the back of the girl running away, Lu Tingxiao's face instantly turned as white as snow in August. Little Bun didn't pay attention to anything outside except Ning Xi, including his father. At this moment, looking at his father's depressed and gloomy expression, he lowered his head and wrote something on the cardboard, then stretched out his little finger and poked him. Feeling a little strength on his arm, Lu Tingxiao lowered his eyes and saw a question mark written on his son's cardboard. "Ask me why I'm not happy." Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows, paused thoughtfully, and then said faintly, "If one day your Aunt Xioxi becomes someone else's, calls that person baby, kisses that person good morning, good night, goodbye, and eats hot pot with that person, and you are not even qualified to question or be angry with her, will you be happy?" Little Treasure stared blankly for a moment, and then an expression as if the heavens were falling and the earth was shattering appeared on his face. So the father finally felt a little better. Little Bun grabbed his unscrupulous father's mobile phone and complained to Aunt Xioxi. He sent a crying emoji to Ning Xi. Ning Xi, who was on the way to the airport, saw it and thought that Little Bun was sad because he couldn't eat hot pot, so she quickly found a basket of sweet words to coax Little Bun. "Oh, baby, what's wrong? Are you unhappy? Don't be sad. If you are sad, I will be sad too. I really have something to do today. I will accompany you to eat hot pot tomorrow night, okay? Mwah, I love you for 10,000 years. I love my baby's smile the most." Xiao Bao looked at Ning Xi's reply and immediately smiled through his tears. He even proudly handed the phone to his father. Lu Tingxiao glanced at Ning Xi's sweet words. He was hit in the heart. 2 hours later, at B City Airport. Although Ning Xi was prepared before coming, she was still shocked by the scene at the moment. Zhang Wei, Zhang Wei, Zhang Wei, hubby, look here. Hubby, I love you. Hubby, I want to bear your children. Wei, you're the most handsome. Coconut will always support you. Mue, you're the best. Coconut will protect you forever. Most of the female fans were present. She even saw several auntie fans and many male fans. All of them were screaming at the top of their lungs. All the security guards at the airport were mobilized, but they still couldn't control the situation. My wives, can you be quiet? Don't affect others? SHH. A sexy voice rang out from the crowd, and the fans immediately fell silent. Then, the crazy screams almost broke through the roof. The scene did not quiet down, but became even more explosive. Ning Xi hid behind a pillar in the distance, her face full of black lines. This bastard really wanted to kill her? If she appeared at this time to pick him up, would she be able to live through the night? Fortunately, she was prepared. Ning Xi ran to the washroom behind her, pulled open a stall, and got in. She opened her huge black bag, took out her tools, and began to put on makeup. When she came out of the washroom again, Ning Xi was already a white-haired old lady. His phone rang with a text message. Ning Xi took out her cell phone and found it was from Zhang Mue. Dirty Demon King, Ning Xi, you have 5 minutes to appear in front of me, or I'll announce our relationship immediately. Shit. Ning Xi checked her makeup for the last time, and then hurried to the most crowded place. Ning Xi's expression was helpless and anxious. Ahem, make way, make way. Ahem, my kind daughters, can you let this old woman take a look at Aya? Don't push. There's an old lady here. Granny, why do you want to see our Mue? Are you also a fan of Mue? Oh my god, our Mue is indeed popular among young and old. He even has milk powder. Everyone, make way for Granny. Granny, how old are you? Ning Xi bent over, patted her back, and thanked them profusely. Daughters, thank you, thank you. I'm 80 years old. I like this young man very much because he looks like my grandson. My grandson works far away, and I only see him a few times a year. She began to wipe her tears. Mue, here's your granny fan. Why don't you meet her? Yes, meet her? She's so pitiful. With the enthusiastic help of her fans, Ning Xi squeezed into the crowd smoothly. In the center of the crowd, Zhang Mue combed his unruly blonde hair with his fingers, took off his sunglasses, and a trace of suspicion flashed across his handsome face. Milk powder. Yes, she's 80 years old. She specially came to the airport to see you on such a hot day. She said she likes you very much because you look like her grandson who works abroad. As soon as the fan finished speaking, Zhang Mue followed the crowd and saw an old lady with wrinkles all over her face. She was wearing grey clothes made of coarse cloth and holding a walking stick. Zhang Mue's expression became extremely distorted in an instant. He used his last bit of rationality to swallow back the word F***ck. He stared at the old lady with an expression that almost wanted to strangle her alive. Of course, all of this happened in a short second, and the fans didn't notice his abnormality. Grandson. Good grandson. Grandma misses you so much. Ning Xi rushed to Zhang Mue's body and caressed his Goldie with her hands. She cried so hard that her heart was broken. When the young ladies at the scene saw this heartwarming and touching scene, they all burst into tears. The sound of the cameras shuttering also came one after another. Ning Xi, wait for me tonight. Zhang Mue gritted his teeth and whispered in her ear. Grandson, why did you lose weight again? Grandma's heart aches for you? Ning Xi was so engrossed in her acting that the hairstyle that Zhang Mue valued the most had been kneaded into a bird's nest. Seeing that Zhang Mue was about to explode, his agent Lei Ming hurriedly came to his rescue. Ahem, everyone, make way. This grandma is a little weak from grief. We'll be responsible for sending her home. Zhang Mue maintained a gentle and considerate expression, but secretly pinched someone's hand and quickly left the airport. In the black van. My good grandson, do you know where I live? Ning Xi, call me grandson one more time. Sun Tuo? So what if I do? I'll kill you. Come on. I'm afraid you won't come. Damn woman, you really hit me? The back of the car was shaking. Lei Ming, who was driving, was speechless. Mue, I told you that you couldn't beat her, but you didn't believe me. Now look at her. Tomorrow's headline will be changed from a beautiful woman to an old woman. Zhang Mue, who was pinched by Ning Xi, was furious. Shut up. Lei Ming watched the battle from the rearview mirror. He was speechless and twitched the corner of his mouth. Ning Xi, can you be gentle? I beg you? He has a play, an advertisement, and a magazine cover this month. I know, Brother Ming. I won't hit your face. Behave yourself. Zhang Mue was no longer as handsome and high-spirited as he was at the airport. His hands were cuffed and pressed against the car seat, as if he had just been ravaged. Ning Xi, you forced me to do this. While Ning Xi was beating him merrily, Zhang Mue was caught off guard. He put his cuffed hands behind her neck and pressed them down hard. Looking at the handsome face in front of her, Ning Xi subconsciously leaned back with a careless smile. What? You can't beat me, so you use your honey trap. Zhang Mue suddenly turned his head away when his lips were about to touch hers. You. Ha 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 ha. Ning Xi covered her belly and rolled on the floor. Come on. Kiss me here. Grandma, don't you think I'm beautiful today? Looking at Ning Xi's wrinkled and pockmarked face, Zhang Mue lay there like a dead fish, feeling hopeless. Ning Xi finally laughed enough and got up, panting. What's wrong? Are you really angry? Who told you to set me up first? Can't I take revenge? Bastard, we haven't seen each other for so long. Don't you miss me at all? How dare you beat me as soon as we meet? Zhang Wei glared at her angrily, and there was a trace of grievance in his eyes. Ning Xi smiled. Of course I do. I told you at the airport that grandma misses you so much. Zhang Wei finally gave up trying to communicate with her. He raised his handcuffed hands and said angrily, hurry up and untie me. Where the hell did you get these handcuffs? This is a prohibited item in the country, right? Ning Xi touched her chin. I think I bought it from a sex toy shop on Doubao. With a 20% discount, it's only 9.9 yuan. Zhang Wei. Lei Ming. Worried that the two of them would start fighting again, Lei Ming quickly changed the topic. We've shaken off the reporters and fans. Where should we go now? Zhang Wei took out a small mirror to fix his hairstyle and said without looking up, let's go back to my villa in the suburbs. Ning Xi immediately straightened up, then put me down by the roadside. I'll take a taxi back myself. Heh, you still want to run away tonight? Let's see where you can run to now. Zhang Wei clenched his teeth and locked the door with a gloomy look on his face. Ning Xi was speechless. She knew it would be like this. The more they drove, the more Ning Xi felt something was wrong. Why did this direction feel so familiar? Tycoon Zhang, you have a property in City B? Don't tell me your mansion is at the Platinum Gold Palace? Ning Xi probed. Zhang Wei snorted. Yeah, so what? It's too late to suck up to me now. Let me tell you, unless you call me grandpa. Ning Xi was a little lost. Zhang Wei's villa was also in the Platinum Gold Palace. She didn't know why, but her brain suddenly began to beep, giving her a bad feeling. Words 944 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 12 seconds. After the car entered the gate, Ning Xi asked casually, Zhang Wei, which villa do you live in? No 6. Ning Xi was surprised. It turned out to be number 6. Villas in the Platinum Gold rank were divided into different grades. The best one was undoubtedly number 8 castle where Devil Lu lived, with a large lake and garden and a private golf course behind it. It occupied the largest area. The second one was Lu Jingli's number 7 villa next door. Number 6 was the same size as number 7 villa. No one knew who the owner of number 6 villa was. It turned out to be Zhang Wei. Seeing Lei Ming was going to drive to the right, Ning Xi reminded him subconsciously, hey, brother Ming, don't go this way. It's blocked. How do you know it's blocked? Zhang Wei asked immediately. Ning Xi's heart skipped a beat. She rolled her eyes at him calmly. Don't you see the warning sign? In fact, that section of the road had been smashed by a drunk driver. She saw it with her own eyes when she passed by yesterday. Zhang Wei glanced at the warning sign saying road maintenance ahead and said, oh. Ning Xi heaved a sigh of relief secretly. Although she had a good reason to live in Lu Tingxiao's place, it was too troublesome and difficult to explain. It was better to avoid trouble. When they arrived, Ning Xi was full of resentment. She wanted to sneak home and hug Xiaobao. Lei Ming got out of the car and asked Zhang Wei, this place is always cleaned, so you can live here. Do you want to live here or in the apartment arranged by the company? If you live here, the traffic may be a bit inconvenient. Ning Xi thought, don't live here. What if we bump into each other? Let's see. We'll talk about it later. Zhang Wei waved his hand impatiently and glanced at Lei Ming. Lei Ming sighed and looked at the two of them. He said worriedly, don't stay up too late. Wei, don't forget you have to. I know. Zhang Wei turned a deaf ear to him and dragged Ning Xi into the house like a bandit. Lei Ming. He didn't expect them to get up tomorrow morning. After entering the house, Zhang Wei counted his fingers and said, don't listen to brother Ming. Ning Xioxi, you must fight with me for 300 rounds tonight. I'll torture you to death. Ning Xi glanced at him disdainfully. Haha, come on then. A loser actually dares to spout such arrogant words? I'll make you wholeheartedly call me grandma? Dream on. It must be you calling me grandpa? Zhang Wei buried his head and rummaged in his huge suitcase. I brought the latest equipment from abroad. You're lucky. After saying that, he glared at her with a pitiful expression. Hurry up and wash this body of mine, it's so painful to the eyes. Are you trying to use this move to lower my fighting strength? Shameless? If I lose, I won't admit it. I'm telling you, lower my ass, I should lower myself. Do you think I'll feel better just because I'm like this? Ning Xi pulled off the thick wig on her head and untied the neckline. What she was doing was harming herself while harming the enemy. Zhang Wei turned on the large screen TV in the living room and began to connect the wires. There are clothes in my room. You can choose one to wear yourself. Hurry up. My battle soul is hungry and thirsty. Ning Xi was speechless as she looked at his excited face. Other people would look for hot girls and lovers to have sex as soon as they returned to China. But this guy dragged her to play games and they even wanted to stay up all night. He was crazy. Zhang Wei skillfully installed the game equipment, took out several bags of jelly, potato chips, and dried fish, and took out a bottle of good wine from the cellar while humming a song. When everything was ready, he sat cross-legged on the ground and was ready to test the smoothness of the game. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Zhang Wei's face immediately darkened. He didn't open the door but called Lei Ming angrily. Stop ringing it. I promise I'll be there on time tomorrow morning. You order me around like a beast every day and don't even allow me to play games. Believe it or not, I'll quit. What are you ringing? Lei Ming, who had been scolded for a long time, was confused. Zhang Wei choked. Aren't you ringing my doorbell? I've walked a long way. I'm driving. Lei Ming said innocently. Who could it be? Few people know I live here. Zhang Wei muttered suspiciously. Could it be that the address was leaked? Be careful. Don't open the door. What if it's the media? Ning Xi is still at your place. Lei Ming immediately became vigilant. Zhang Wei snorted and said indifferently, if it is, then so be it. So what if I saw her? Lei Ming said helplessly, Wei, I don't want to criticize you, but even if you want to help her, she has to accept it first. Ning Xi obviously doesn't want to be on your boat. Zhang Wei was furious. What boat? Who are you calling a boat? The doorbell outside the door was still ringing. It rang every 5 seconds in a very regular pattern. I'm done talking to you. I'm going to open the door. It's so late. Who is it? Zhang Wei hung up the phone and walked to the living room impatiently. Zhang Wei deliberately leaned over to see who the person outside was through the electronic monitor. As a result, he was dumbfounded as if he had seen a ghost. F***ck? Lu Tingxiao? Why is he here? At the door, he saw a man in grey home clothes and a pair of slippers. He was carrying something in his hand. Although he was dressed casually, Zhang Wei somehow felt a gust of cold wind from the glacier blowing into his neck, making him shiver. Zhang Wei panicked like a rabbit that had seen a wolf. After the doorbell rang twice, he took a deep breath and opened the door. The moment he opened the door, his originally carefree attitude immediately became respectful. Why are you here? I'm looking at you, the man replied expressionlessly. Oh, please come in. Please come in. Zhang Wei hurriedly welcomed them in. Lu Tingxiao casually glanced at the game controller, snacks, and alcohol on the floor before sitting down on the sofa. Noticing Lu Tingxiao's gaze, Zhang Wei coughed and explained, Ahem, this job is too tiring. It's rare for me to relax. Lu Tingxiao did not care about this question and asked casually, when did they arrive? Just arrived not long ago. Zhang Wei searched for a long time and finally found a bag of tea, but there was no hot water, so he could only take a bottle of mineral water from the fridge. There is no water at home. Is this okay? Don't worry. I'll leave after a while, Lu Tingxiao said as he pointed to the boxes he had brought. Your mother gave them to you. You could have just sent someone to bring them to me. Why did you bother to come here in the middle of the night? Zhang Wei complained about his mother 100 times in his heart. Why did she ask him to bring them here for no reason? Didn't she know that he was most afraid of this person? Alright, needless to say, his biological mother must have known about it, that's why she sent him here. How long are you going to stay? Lu Tingxiao asked in the tone of an elder and boss. Zhang Wei sat up straight and answered politely, if everything goes well, I'm going to settle down in China this time. Although all the people in the film and television industry are going abroad, the domestic film and television industry has been developing very fast in recent years, and the market is very big. It's necessary to study abroad, but I don't think we should put the cart before the horse. We should focus on China? Okay. Lu Tingxiao nodded affirmatively, which was rare. Zhang Wei heaved a sigh of relief and then asked with concern, how is Xiaobao recently? Lu Tingxiao, not bad. By the way, I brought toys for him and some small gifts for you. I was going to visit you tomorrow, but I didn't expect you to come first. Zhang Wei hurriedly took out the gifts that he had prepared in the box. Lu Tingxiao, thank you. Then there was an awkward silence. So, at this moment, the sound of water coming from the bathroom suddenly became clear. Zhang Wei scratched his head a little awkwardly. Lu Tingxiao naturally understood what was going on. He said a few words and stood up. I'm leaving. Go back and see your mother when you have time. Okay, I'll see you out. Zhang Wei was about to see Zhang Wei out as if he had been pardoned when suddenly a furious voice came from behind. Zhang Wei, what kind of rotten clothes are you wearing? How can I wear them with such a big hole in the back? Lu Tingxiao, who had already stood up and was about to leave, paused as if his acupoints had been hit. After a second, he slowly turned around and looked in the direction where the voice came from. The girl was barefoot, her hair was wet, and her cheeks were naturally red because she had just taken a bath. She was standing at the door of the bath, exasperated. She was wearing a large men's t-shirt, which was torn on the right side of the waist, revealing her fair skin. Zhang Wei didn't notice Lu Tingxiao's expression. He just wanted to die. This girl was about to leave. Couldn't she wait for a while before coming out? I broke it when I was cycling and forgot to throw it away. There are so many clothes out there, why did you have to pick one with a hole in it? Zhang Wei replied to Ning Xi speechlessly. Then he turned to Lu Tingxiao awkwardly and introduced, Ahem, this is my friend, Ning Xi. After saying that, Zhang Wei suddenly found that Ning Xi's expression was a little strange. He stared at Lu Tingxiao as if he had lost his soul. This wretched girl, even if Lu Tingxiao was not bad looking, she didn't need to be this good for nothing, right? Her eyes were staring straight at him. Zhang Wei was unhappy to see Ning Xi like this. He said with a straight face, Ning Xi, this is my uncle, the president of the Lu Group, Lu Tingxiao. What are you standing there for? Call for help? At this moment, Ning Xi, whose hair was dripping with water and her hand was still clutching the torn part of her clothes, finally found her voice. With an extremely mysterious expression, she said word by word dryly, Uncle. Uncle. Ning Xi's tone was like a question mark, but in Lu Tingxiao's ears, it sounded like an affirmative sentence. It seemed that Ning Xi was calling him uncle. His face instantly became like a devil who had just washed the 18 levels of hell with blood. His whole body was full of cold and terrifying aura, which made both of them tremble in fear. No one knew how long this strange atmosphere lasted. Lu Tingxiao's cold eyes fell on Ning Xi. You said you were going to pick up Mu Ye. Zhang Wei was stunned to hear this. Ning Xi, do you know my uncle? Ning Xi almost went crazy. She lowered her voice and said, I'm going to ask you, how do you know Lu Tingxiao? Zhang Wei said, I told you he is my uncle. Ning Xi said, then why didn't you tell me earlier? Zhang Wei said, you didn't ask. Ning Xi, how do you know my uncle? Zhang Wei looked back and forth between them. The more he looked, the more he felt something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. It's a long story. Ning Xi touched her forehead wearily. She said these words to Zhang Wei and also to Lu Tingxiao. Zhang Wei had a lot of questions to ask but couldn't because of Lu Tingxiao's presence. The girl who had just finished bathing smelled good. She was wearing an empty t-shirt with a pair of white and slender legs. One of her hands was still covering the hole in her shirt. Such a scene could make one's blood boil. However, when he thought that she was in another man's house like this, Lu Tingxiao had the urge to destroy everything. Even though Lu Tingxiao's heart had been destroyed several times, it had only happened in an almost imperceptible moment. Lu Tingxiao's expression was only a little cold. He glanced at Ning Xi and said, are you going to stay here or go back with me? It was a simple sentence, but it seemed to carry a great deal of pressure. Hearing this, Zhang Wei looked at Ning Xi in shock and disbelief. What did he mean? Not only did they know each other, but they also lived together? Ning Xi looked at the cold Lu Tingxiao and then at Zhang Wei, whose eyes were burning with anger. She swallowed hard and said, I'd better go back. The coldness around Lu Tingxiao suddenly subsided a little. Zhang Wei, however, went berserk. He immediately grabbed Ning Xi's wrist. His beautiful light blue eyes were full of nervousness and anger. You promised to accompany me tonight. As soon as he said this, Ning Xi wanted to punch him into the sky. Don't say such ambiguous words, okay, young man? She raised her head and looked at Lu Tingxiao. Sure enough, that fellow's terrifying expression had reached the point where he could no longer suppress it. It was as if there was only one iron fence left before a wild beast would rush out. Ning Xi pulled her hand back and said patiently, Mu Ye, I have to shoot tomorrow. Didn't Brother Ming say you have something to do tomorrow morning? When we're both free, I'll play with you again, okay? Ning Xi deliberately emphasized the word play games. After saying that, he quickly picked up his big black bag and used it to cover the hole in his waist. He didn't even have time to change his clothes before he ran away from this troublesome place. Lu Tingxiao took a deep look at Zhang Wei and slowly followed Ning Xi, looking at the backs of the two leaving one after the other, and the look in Lu Tingxiao's eyes before he left, Zhang Wei's eyes were burning with anger. Damn it! No wonder the woman knew that the road was blocked so quickly. Ning Xi, how many things are you hiding from me? At this moment, Ning Xi was trembling with fear as she ran back. Suddenly, her hand became lighter. It turned out that Lu Tingxiao had taken the big bag from her. Then, she felt a weight on her shoulder. Lu Tingxiao took off his coat and put it on her shoulder. Thank you. Ning Xi thanked him awkwardly. Lu Tingxiao's face was cold and he didn't respond. It would be better if he responded. As long as he responded, she would have a way to deal with it. But this was the most frightening thing. Words 976 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 13 seconds. In the Lu mansion. After returning to her room and changing into her pajamas, Ning Xi ran to find Xiao Baozai at lightning speed. Xiaobao, I'm afraid of the dark tonight. Can I sleep with you? Little Bun was naturally very happy and happily gave up most of the space for her. Thank you, baby. Good night. Auntie's life-saving charm. I'm counting on you tonight. What happened today was really too exciting. Her little heart was still beating very fast. She could feel that the hazy barrier between her and Lu Tingxiao had become so fragile that it would break at the slightest touch after today. If it was really revealed, she really didn't know how to deal with it. Fortunately, Xiao Bao in her arms had a superb hypnotic effect. She gradually fell asleep after half an hour. Ning Xi had Xiao Bao to sleep peacefully, but someone couldn't sleep alone. Late at night, the smell of smoke in the study was so heavy that it was almost like flying clouds. Oh, no wonder Cheng Feng couldn't find out who the two people who gave Ning Xi gifts on the set that day were. One of them turned out to be a traitor, Dirty Demon King. Only now did he remember that they had a family. Zhang Wei's nickname in the group was this strange name, but he had never thought of it before. As for the man who signed off with the name YS, there was no clue so far. In the dark, the man put out the cigarette butt, got up and went out. He gently pushed open the door of the guest room. There was no one inside. Lu Tingxiao frowned slightly and turned to the next room. Sure enough, Ning Xi was sleeping soundly with Xiao Bao in her arms. But did she think it would be fine just like that? Lu Tingxiao walked to the small bed, gently took away Xiao Bao's little hand that was holding the corner of his clothes, and replaced it with a plush doll. Then he directly carried Ning Xi away. Xiao Bao frowned in his sleep, reached out his little hand, and held the doll. After deceiving his son, Lu Tingxiao directly carried her to the master bedroom. He very gently put her on the bed, then sat on the edge of the bed and gently stroked the girl's hair, eyes, cheeks with his slightly rough fingers. Like a beast before eating, extremely patient and enjoying the moment before eating. Finally, he let out a sigh and covered those two soft lips. He moved in and out, kissing and entangling them. She was as sweet as he had imagined. Then, the side of his face, his earlobe, his neck, and finally his collarbone. In the past 32 years, he had never fallen in love with anyone, nor did he feel that love meant anything to him. To him, love was probably the most useless thing. So, even if he had no desire or love, so what? He had never thought that one day, love would sweep over him in such a turbulent way. This little girl, who was 8 years younger than him, had made him a complete stranger to himself. To him, life was no longer a cold and hard schedule and data. Instead, it was soft, longing, warm, sweet, and fulfilling. But at the same time, it was accompanied by irritability, violence, impulsiveness, and lust. When he thought of the scene when he saw her at Zhang Hui's place, the violent anger in his heart immediately leaped out of the cage. He unconsciously exerted force, and in the next second, the smell of blood permeated between their intertwined lips and teeth. The girl under him frowned, and Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened. She smacked her lips and fell back into a deep sleep. He had a carefree look on his face. Lu Tingxiao gently touched her red and swollen lips with the pad of his finger, and a spark lit up the prairie. He had an impulse to wake her up with a kiss regardless of the consequences. The next morning, Ning Xi woke up naturally. She had slept well last night, but something seemed wrong. Why did the tip of her tongue hurt so much? Could it be that she bit herself in her dreams? It was so cruel to bite herself. During breakfast, everything was as usual. Lu Tingxiao seemed to be starting work today. He was sitting there in a suit, drinking coffee, and reading the newspaper. He looked as aloof as ever, as if nothing had happened last night. Ning Xi breathed a sigh of relief. She wondered if she was being too sensitive. Lu Tingxiao might have a vague affection for her, but he shouldn't be jealous of her, right? Or was he jealous of his nephew? Lu Tingxiao's expression was normal, but Little Bun's expression was a bit strange. Little Bun had been sulking the whole morning, as if he had been robbed of something. Ning Xi put a soup bun in Little Bun's bowl and asked concernedly, "Baby, what's wrong? Are you unhappy?" Little Bun glanced at his father, who acted as if nothing had happened, and looked even angrier. But when she remembered that Aunt Xioxi liked her smile, she tried to smile to show that she was fine. She was so angry, but she still had to keep smiling. Ning Xi was relieved and quickly finished her breakfast. "I'm leaving. Take your time." The supporting actor would be joining the crew today, so it would be better for her to arrive early. She was about to take her bag and leave, when Little Bun walked up to her and tugged at the corner of her clothes. Ning Xi was puzzled. What's wrong? Seeing that she didn't understand, Little Bun looked aggrieved. He looked as if he had fallen out of favor and was about to cry. Ning Xi scratched her ears and cheeks for a long time, but still couldn't figure out what she had done wrong. In the end, she could only look at Lu Tingxiao for help. Lu Tingxiao glanced at her and reminded her indifferently, "You forgot to kiss him goodbye." Oh, sorry." Ning Xi patted her forehead and suddenly remembered. She didn't know how he got into this habit, but Little Bun liked it very much, so she would kiss his little face every day before she left. She was in such a hurry that she forgot it today. After kissing him again, Ning Xi left. Xiaobao waved goodbye to Aunt Xioxi and turned to face his father. His cute little face immediately showed an extremely angry expression, as if saying, "Don't think I'll forgive you just because you helped me." Lu Tingxiao didn't seem to notice his son's angry glare. He calmly took a sip of coffee and said, "Sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say. If you want to talk to me, say it yourself or write it down." Hearing this, Xiaobao became even angrier. Even with Ning Xi's help, he could only write words, emoticons, and symbols. He had never written long sentences, let alone spoken. Finally, he angrily wrote a word on the cardboard, "thief." Lu Tingxiao glanced at the word out of the corner of his eye and pretended to be confused. "Why? Your house was broken into?" Xiaobao was so angry that his cheeks bulged. He buried his head and wrote a few words in Chinese, "You stole Aunt Xioxi last night." Looking at the sentence, Lu Tingxiao was finally satisfied. He put down the newspaper, looked at his son, and asked meaningfully, "You don't want Aunt Xioxi to be my wife?" "Mine." Xiaobao wrote on the cardboard. Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows. "Unfortunately, you two are not a good match. You are 19 years younger than her. Do you want her to wait so many years for you to grow up?" Xiaobao buried himself in the drawing and drew a broken egg. Looking at the lifelike bad egg, Lu Tingxiao smiled. "But what I said is the truth, isn't it?" Then he paused and said in a very bewitching tone, "But if she becomes my wife, it will be different. She will become your mother." Mother. Hearing this word, Xiaobao froze for a moment and buried his head in silence. His little face seemed to be struggling and wavering. Words 992 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 13 seconds. Today's crew was the same as usual. There were no changes just because of the second male lead. Zhao Sizu was surrounded by a group of girls who were listening to him talk about his glorious history in the entertainment industry. Jia Qingqing's relationship with Ning Xi was getting better and better. She was excitedly talking about the diamond bracelet that her father had just bought for her. Only Ning Xi was looking forward to it. After all, she had too many scenes with the second male lead and the quality of the second male lead would affect her greatly. Jia Qingqing fiddled with the sparkling diamond bracelet on her wrist and said disdainfully, "Sister Swaluo, look at how she's waiting for a man." She even took the director's words seriously. Does she think she can wait until Panan comes out? Ning Swaluo looked helpless and said, "Don't pick on Ning Xi. She has the most scenes with the second male lead, so it's normal for her to pay more attention to it than us. Haha, there are quite a lot of kissing scenes and sex scenes. Luckily I didn't take the role back then, otherwise I would have been taken advantage of. Jia Qingqing said happily and then looked at Ning Xi enviously. Sister Xi, you're the best. Your boyfriend is so handsome, and so is your partner. Just then, director Guo Qixin's excited voice came from the entrance of the set. Come, everyone. Our second male lead, the actor who plays Sun Huanqing, is here. Everyone, come over and say hello. The response from the crew was sparse. Zhao Sizhu had no intention of getting up and the girls were still surrounding him, fighting to get him to read their palms. Jia Qingqing snorted disdainfully and didn't even look outside. Ning Xi touched up her makeup and stood up to persuade her. Let's go and say hello. After all, we're colleagues. Jia Qingqing then followed her out of the break room reluctantly. Ning Xi naturally flew over immediately. She was looking out when she felt as if she had been struck by lightning from the ninth heaven. The guy next to the director was that eye-catching golden hair. Even if she wanted to lie to her eyes and say that she saw wrongly, it was impossible. Why was the second male lead that guy? This can't be real. At the entrance, Xiaoli, the stage supervisor, suddenly screamed. Ah! Jia Qingqing frowned. Are you crazy? What are you yelling about? Right after he said that, he saw the man behind the director from the corner of his eyes. She let out a scream as well. What's wrong? Ning Xi asked. Zhang Wei, Sister Shui Luo, it's Zhang Wei. Jia Qingqing pinched Ning Xi arm in excitement. What? Ning Xi followed her gaze. The director chuckled as he walked in front of Lin Yuqian. Beside him was a blonde man dressed in a very trendy t-shirt and shorts. With one hand in his pocket, he wore an arrogant and mischievous expression that was unique to him. When he smiled at Lin Yuqian, he revealed his cute canine teeth. Zhang Wei. The second male lead was actually Zhang Wei. Even Ning Xi was shocked by the result. At this moment, the young girls who had been surrounding Zhao Sizhu had already rushed to the door like a pack of hungry wolves. Zhang Wei? Was it really Zhang Wei? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Quick, pinch me. Oh my god. As expected of a walking aphrodisiac. He was simply too handsome. He was so handsome that my legs turned to jelly. I heard that Zhang Wei even has milk powder. He didn't even let an 80-year-old lady go? Don't stop me. It's not easy to see the real person. I'm going to sleep with him? If I can't sleep with Zhang Wei, I'm no different from a salted fish. Who was the most popular young male idol in the entertainment circle? No matter who you are, they will tell you this name, Zhang Wei. Jia Qingqing still couldn't accept this fact. She walked back and forth angrily. Is there something wrong? Isn't Zhang Wei filming abroad? Even if he's back, how could he play a supporting role? Ning Xi pondered. It's said that Zhang Wei won't play any role other than the male lead. Besides, the main investor of this show is Starlight. Why would an actor from Shenxi act in it? Jia Qingqing, who was just glad that she didn't have to be taken advantage of, was about to go crazy. Damn it! Why is it like this? Why is Ning Xi so lucky? Zhang Wei should be mine. He's mine? It's all her fault for snatching my role. The onlookers looked at Jia Qingqing sympathetically. They weren't surprised that she was going crazy. Everyone in the entertainment circle knew that Jia Qingqing liked Zhang Wei and had publicly confessed her love for him on Weibo. Although Zhang Wei didn't respond to her, she often reposted messages related to Zhang Wei on Weibo like a crazy fan. Guo Qixin spent a lot of effort to calm the crazy girls down. He couldn't help but tease, Wei, look at how much you've charmed the girls in our crew. Handsome guys are always treated well. Zhang Wei followed the director's words and joked, Director, didn't you hear that? They just want to sleep with me, so you must protect me. Ha ha ha, it's okay. Your CP is Meng Chang'e, the god of war. She will protect you? Oh, by the way, where's Ning Xi? She kept asking me who her supporting role was. Where is she now? Guo Qixin looked for her everywhere. Zhang Wei curled up the corner of his mouth with a faint smile. Don't tell me I scared him away. It's possible. Almost all the girls in the country are your fans. Maybe Ning Xi is too. Maybe she was frightened by seeing her idol. Guo Qixin laughed. While they were talking, Ning Xi came over. In a short time, Ning Xi's expression was impeccable. She smiled and reached out to the person opposite her. Hello, Senior Zhang. I'm Ning Xi. It's an honor to work with you. Although Ning Xi and Zhang Wei were the same age, Zhang Wei had entered the industry earlier than her. He was her senior, so she should be more respectful to him. Hello. Zhang Wei smiled and reached out to shake her hand gently. But the next second, he almost threw her hand away. This wretched lass was about to crush his bones into pieces. Zhang Wei forced himself to maintain a handsome expression and suddenly pretended to be enlightened. Ah, Ning Xi, it's you. What? You know each other? Guo Qixin was surprised. Not only the director, but everyone in the crew was also looking at Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei smiled meaningfully. Of course. Hearing his suggestive tone and seeing everyone staring at her with strange eyes, Ning Xi was so angry that her hands began to tremble. She almost couldn't restrain the primitive force in her body to beat him up. Seeing that Ning Xi's face had turned pale, Zhang Wei finally said slowly, We worked together when we were filming Blue Bird. Oh? Why didn't Ning Xi mention it? Guo Qixin was surprised. Ning Xi felt as if she had just escaped from death. Her back was wet with sweat. She replied modestly, Director Guo, I was just a stunt double for the female lead. It's good that Senior Zhang still remembers me. Guo Qixin was amused. Oh, I didn't expect you two to have such a fate. That's great. Since you've worked together before and know each other, there shouldn't be too much practice. Let's have an intense scene today, shall we? Ning Xi, an intense scene? An intense scene? Director, no way. They weren't familiar with each other? Zhang Wei smiled happily. Okay. Ning Xi really wanted to reach out and pull out those evil little canine teeth. Don't worry, let me see which scene to choose. Guo Qixin flipped through the script excitedly. Ning Xi thought to herself, Director, let's choose the 46th scene. If I play this scene now, I'm sure I can do it very well. That scene was about Sun Huanqing saving a girl in the military camp and then being seduced by that girl. Meng Chang'e was hot-tempered and thought that Sun Huanqing was cheating on her, so he beat him up. Zhang Wei seemed to know what she was thinking. He bent down slightly and whispered in her ear, Honey, do you want to play the scene where you beat me up? Ning Xi flashed a meter away as if she got an electric shock. Bastard, stay away from me. Thanks to this guy, her hatred was so strong that even 10 oxen couldn't take it away from her. She could already imagine what kind of storm Jia Qingqing and Ning Xi, especially Jia Qingqing, would use to greet her. Life was already hard enough. This was like adding snow to snow. Ning Xi was destined to be disappointed. The director wouldn't arrange the scene where she beat Zhang Wei on the first day. After thinking for a while, she said, let's choose the 37th scene. Ning Xi had already memorized the script. She recalled the plot of the 37th scene and her face darkened. Although it was not a sex scene or a kissing scene, it was not much better. It was a scene where Meng Chang'e flirted with Sun Huanqing. The director called the two of them over and began to explain the scene to them. The Meng family has been a general for generations and has accumulated outstanding military achievements. Their achievements are so great that the general's mansion is in danger. The current emperor is mediocre and foolish and listens to slander, which leads to the death of Meng Chang'e's father. Fortunately, Meng Changfeng, Meng Chang'e's eldest brother, has taken over his father's position, so that Chang'e can still live a carefree life. He is a little devil in Chang'an City all day long. When the director mentioned the little devil, Zhang Wei glanced at Ning Xi with a smile and said, he's quite like you. Ning Xi ignored him and continued to listen to the play. This little devil always dresses up as a man and doesn't look like a girl at all. When she was 16 years old, she saw Sun Huanqing on the street and fell in love with him at first sight. Since then, she has been pestering him every day. Zhang Wei raised his hand and said, Director, isn't this a female version of a bully trying to snatch a white flower? Ning Xi, you're the bully? Guo Qixin coughed lightly and praised, Mu Yet, you understand very well. That's pretty much what I mean. So what I want to say is that in the past, the characters you've played have always been more aggressive and proactive, but this time, it's the complete opposite, so you must pay attention to the change. Hearing this, Ning Xi was a little worried. This guy used to play the role of a domineering president, a domineering senior, a domineering prince, and so on. Could he handle a weak doctor like Meng Chang'e? Zhang Wei nodded solemnly to show that he understood. Got it, Director. I'm the weak one. Guo Qixin looked at them worriedly. In fact, compared with Zhang Wei, he was more worried about Ning Xi. He was worried that a woman like Ning Xi would not be able to play the role of a street bully like Meng Chang'e. The reason why I chose this scene is that it can best reflect the feelings between the two of you. In the play, most of the time, one of you is cynical and the other is gentle and tolerant. If you can act this scene well, basically, there won't be a big problem in the following scenes. Well, that's all. Everything will be tested in practice. You two go to put on makeup and change your costumes? Ning Xi was the first one to come out. She was dressed neatly in red and white. Her hair was tied up in a high ponytail, and her eyebrows were thick and black, which made her look very handsome. She looked exactly like the 16-year-old Meng Chang'e that she was going to play. Even those who had been rejecting Ning Xi had to admit that her image was flawless. Guo Qixin had been worried that Ning Xi, who was too beautiful, would have a single acting style, but he didn't expect her to be so flexible. He praised her with satisfaction and then said worriedly, Ning Xi, you must relax later. Don't be an idol, okay? You have to be as hooligan as possible in this scene. Don't worry, Director. I believe she can do it. At this time, Zhang Wei also came out of the dressing room. The moment Zhang Wei lifted the curtain and walked out, everyone gasped. Even Ning Xi raised her eyebrows in surprise. After the makeup, Zhang Wei's temperament changed completely. He was wearing a cyan bamboo gown, and his face was as smooth as jade. His eyebrows were gentle, as if he had walked out of an ancient painting. Zhang Wei glanced at Ning Xi proudly and said in a low voice, What do you think? Don't you think I'm so handsome in this dress? Unfortunately, it was ruined as soon as she opened her mouth. Ning Xi maintained a humble expression as if she was talking to Zhang Wei about the plot. She spat out 3 words, very weak. You. What about me? I'm sorry to tell you that you were suppressed by me the whole time in the play. Really? Why do I remember that I was the one who counterattacked in one scene? It seems to be a bed scene. Not far away, Jia Qingqing saw the two of them whispering to each other from time to time. She was so jealous that she almost lost her mind. As soon as Zhang Wei came, all his attention was on Ning Xi. He didn't even look at her. She didn't even have a chance to say hello to him. Next to her, Ning Xi had been comforting her in a soft voice. Qingqing, don't be angry. What's done is done. After all, in the entertainment circle, luck is also a part of strength. Ning Xi is really lucky to have Zhang Wei to act with her. I guess after this movie, she will at least become a B-list actress, maybe even a quasi-A-list actress. Oh, quasi-A-list? She dared to snatch my things. Do you think I'll let her off easy? Jia Qingqing's originally beautiful face was now incomparably twisted and hideous. Qing, don't be too impulsive. The company is going to train Ning Xi. If you fall out with her, I'm afraid. So what if we fall out? Do you think I'd be afraid of a vixen who only knows how to seduce men? Hearing that the company was going to cultivate Ning Xi, Jia Qingqing was even more furious. After all, she and Ning Xi had similar acting styles. If the company promoted Ning Xi, to a large extent, her resources would be divided. Looking at Jia Qingqing, who was completely aroused, Ning Xi secretly smirked. With Jia Qingqing as her blade, she didn't need to make a move at all. She only needed to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. However, Ning Xi's luck seemed to be a little too good recently. He had to be on guard. Where's Lil Kui? Are the props ready? Guo Qishan shouted. Coming. Director, what do you think of this? The prop master brought over a thick hemp rope. Okay. Guo Qishan nodded and then said to Zhang Wei, I have to trouble you. Not at all. It's necessary. Zhang Wei had a very professional look on his face. He lay down on a large carved bed and let the prop master tie up his hands and feet. Yes, this scene was just as the director said, very intense. Meng Chang's confession to Sun Huanqing was rejected, so he directly tied him up and brought him to the mansion. Seeing this scene, the girls on the scene began a new round of craziness. Ah, Mu Ye's binding pimp. I want to tie Mu Ye up and throw him on the bed even in my dreams. Why are you so excited? You're not the one who's going to do it later. I'm so angry. Why does it have to be that annoying vixen? Yeah, she's so annoying. Can't Mu Ye tell the director to replace her? She doesn't deserve Mu Ye at all. Ahem. Guo Qishan coughed to signal everyone to be quiet. Then he clapped his hands and shouted, okay, everyone get ready. 3, 2, 1, action. Ning Xi was not affected by the discussion around her at all. As soon as the director's voice fell, the look in her eyes changed instantly. Clean, clear, and as energetic as the sun, this was the look of a 16-year-old girl. She also wore a lazy expression on her face. She lifted the hem of her clothes, lifted her foot, and kicked open the door of her room. Then the camera switched to Zhang Wei. The young man was lying on the red bed curtain with his hands and feet tied. The color made his face look even paler and weaker, which made people want to tease and ravage him. Hearing the door being kicked open, Sun Huanqing slowly opened his eyes and looked at the girl who was walking against the light in front of the bed. Meng Chang'e sat down on the edge of the bed and took out an oiled paper bag. Fuxing Restaurant's sugar-fried chestnuts. I queued for 2 hours to buy them. Do you want to eat them? Sun Huanqing turned her head away and closed her eyes, looking like she didn't want to talk to her at all. Meng Chang'e peeled one and threw it into her mouth with a sly smile. You don't want to eat them? Then I'm going to feed you? In a way that might make you shy. You. Sun Huanqing suddenly opened his eyes, which were filled with anger and shame. You're a girl. How can you be so shameless? Meng Chang'e squinted at him and raised her eyebrows. Shame? What's the use of shame? Can I go on the battlefield to kill enemies, or can I get a wife? Sun Huanqing's face was full of anger. The Meng family has been loyal for generations. Your ancestors fought on the battlefield for the country, but you are ignorant and incompetent, bullying men and taking women away. How can you face your ancestors? Meng Chang'e had long heard these words from the people around him. He picked his ears with his fingers, and with a chestnut in his mouth, he raised his voice and said, You are already so old, and you are still single. There are 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no children is the worst. How can you face the ancestors of the Sun family? Sun Huanqing was almost angered to death by her sophistry. With a stern expression, he said, These are 2 different matters. Moreover, this son's ambition does not lie here. Meng Chang'e stepped on the edge of the bed and lashed the whip in his hand on Sun Huanqing's body again and again. Finally, he pressed it against Sun Huanqing's chin with a sly and mischievous expression on his face. Dr. Sun, how about this? I'll be your wife. When I become your wife, I'll listen to everything you say in the future. If you want me to go east, I won't go west. If you want me to learn well, I'll listen to you obediently. Wouldn't this be worthy of our ancestors? Sun Huanqing was stunned, and a trace of panic appeared on his face. You, don't talk nonsense. Meng Chang'e seemed to have discovered a new continent. She leaned over, almost touching his face. Hey, Dr. Sun, you're blushing? Actually, you like me too, right? Why don't we just cook the rice? Cut. Until the director shouted cut, everyone was still unsatisfied. Why did he stop acting? Why did he stop acting? He wanted to continue watching? He wanted to see the rice cooked? The actors on both sides performed very well, especially Ning Xi's performance, which completely brought them into the play. Their rejection of Ning Xi disappeared. At first, they didn't want Ning Xi to touch their idol, but in the end, they were shouting for her to do it. They were as excited as if they were the ones doing it. Of course, when they came back to their senses, they still didn't like Ning Xi. They all surrounded Zhang Wei, asking about his well-being and praising his excellent acting skills. Except for Jia Qingqing, Zhao Sizhu was probably the most depressed one today. He had the highest status in the crew and was the most popular among the girls. When Zhang Wei came, everyone's attention was drawn to him, and he suddenly felt lonely. As for the happiest person, of course, it was the director. Today, Ning Xi and Zhang Wei tried several scenes very smoothly. The two of them had a tacit understanding as if they had worked together 100 times. Today, for Ning Xi, it could be described in a few words, a magnificent scene, a new lease of life after the disaster. When it was almost time to finish, Zhang Wei was surrounded by a group of people who wanted to treat him to dinner. Ning Xi was packing up when her cell phone rang in her bag. She looked at the caller ID. It was Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao's number was forcibly saved into her cell phone a few days ago. Why was this guy calling her at this time? Ning Xi looked suspicious and hurried to find a corner to answer the phone. Hello, second master. Hello, Xiao, Shi. Lu Tingxiao's voice was weak, as if he had been hollowed out. Ning Xi was speechless. What's wrong with you? What's wrong? I want to ask you what's wrong with you? What did you do to my brother last night? Lu Tingxiao asked angrily. Ning Xi was confused. What do you mean? What could I do to him? You didn't do anything to him. Then why was he so angry today? The meeting started at 8 o'clock in the morning. It has been 12 hours. Well, this is your company's business. I don't think it has anything to do with me. Maybe he had a lot of things to deal with before he went back to work? That's impossible. I've known my brother for so long. I know what he is thinking with just one look. It must have something to do with you. You are the one who hurt us. Now he's going to torture everyone in the company to death? Lu Tingxiao insisted that it was her fault. Ning Xi felt wronged and said helplessly, I really didn't do anything. The only thing that could have happened last night was that she went to the airport to pick up Zhang Wei and ran into Lu Tingxiao when she was showering at his house. Could it be because of this? But his reaction afterwards was clearly very normal, wasn't it? I don't care. I don't care. It must be because of you. You're the one who caused this trouble, so you have to get rid of him. Otherwise, even if we become ghosts, we won't let you off. Just now, our finance department head fainted. His spirit must be on the way to find you. Ning Xi. Holy shit. What was going on? She had been shot even though she was lying down. What could she do now? What could she do to save them? Isn't this an international joke? Ning Xi was worried sick when she received a multimedia message. Lu Tingxiao sent her two pictures. One was a picture of a man fainting and being carried away by an ambulance. The other was a picture of the entire conference room. Everyone sitting around the table looked terrified as if they were about to be interrogated by the queen. The great devil Lu sitting at the head of the table was like the king of hell who was judging them. Even through the pictures, Ning Xi seemed to feel a gust of cold air. Lu Tingxiao was playing the final judgment. Why did she have to save him? Lu Tingxiao's phone call was simply inexplicable. Ning Xi had originally decided to wash her hands of this matter, but for some reason, she felt a little guilty deep down in her heart. Damn it! Why did she feel guilty? She had already made up her mind not to care about it, but Lu Tingxiao sent another video over. In the video, Lu Tingxiao's eyes were as cold as a knife, which startled Ning Xi. It took her a while to realize that he should be looking at Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao, I'll give you half an hour to make a new plan for me. Now, do it here. If you can't do it, go to the finance department and get your salary. Then the video screen went black. Ning Xi. When the video screen went black, she seemed to see Lu Tingxiao's last cry for help. Even a layman like her knew that it was impossible to come up with a new proposal within half an hour. But she really didn't know how to save him. Ning Xi's brain was working fast. The 36 stratagems of Sun Tzu's art of war ran through her mind. Wait for the exhausted? Lu Tingxiao's ghost would kill her? Capture the ringleader first? Lu Tingxiao was the ringleader himself? Besiege Wei to save Zhao Zhao? How could Wei help her? Could it be a honey trap? Bah! At last, Ning Xi patted her head. Got it? Luring the tiger away from the mountain? Ning Xi took a deep breath, calmed herself down and dialed Lu Tingxiao's phone number. At the same time, at Lu Enterprises. In the conference room, the big screen was connected to Lu Tingxiao's mobile phone, playing a piece of internal information. All the senior executives were watching it attentively, because Lu Tingxiao was going to ask questions later. It was as scary as when the teacher asked questions in class when they were young. Just then, Lu Tingxiao's mobile phone suddenly rang. Lu Tingxiao didn't even look at it. He casually swiped to answer the call. In the next second, a woman's sweet and soft voice came out of the speaker of the phone. Hello, Lu Tingxiao, are you busy? What? In an instant, all the higher UPS were stunned. They were completely dumbfounded. What was going on? Is this the boss's private number? There was actually a woman fighting in, and her voice was so sweet, and she even called his name directly. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. When Lu Tingxiao heard that voice, his entire aura changed imperceptibly. It was like a cool breeze from the mortal world blowing at the spider lilies by the bridge of helplessness. Lu Tingxiao, who was immersed in the impossible plan, burst into tears the moment he heard Ning Xi's familiar voice. Sister-in-law, you're finally here. Sob sob sob. Lu Tingxiao paused for a moment before he unplugged the data cable and put the phone to his ear. His expression didn't change at all, and his tone was just as cold. What's the matter? On the other end of the phone, Ning Xi wanted to give up as soon as she heard such a terrible voice. Finally, she forced herself to hold on and said in a soft and pleading tone, well, will you come back tonight? We promised to accompany Xiaobao to eat hot pot today. Lu Tingxiao said coldly, he's busy. He might not come back. After unplugging the cable, Lu Tingxiao couldn't hear what Ning Xi was saying. He could only guess that she was calling Lu Tingxiao back. After hearing his brother's heartless reply, he immediately screamed in his heart, "No, why didn't even Ning Xi help? Could it be that the heavens want me dead?" Ning Xi's voice became softer. "But if I bring Xiaobao there alone, I'm not sure. What if something unexpected happens? Xiaobao would definitely want you to come along. Come back, please." "Okay." Lu Tingxiao was silent for 3 seconds before he said, "Okay, I'll be right back." Lu Jingli was stunned for a moment. Then, he felt like he was being bathed in light and was about to ascend to the heavens. Sister-in-law is mighty and domineering. I knew she could do it. He had thought that his brother was tough, but it turned out that he was just a little tsundere. After hanging up, Lu Tingxiao said, "Meeting adjourned." Everyone looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't believe that they had escaped death just like that. Lu Jingli snorted proudly. "Thank me, all of you. I was the one who called for your savior. You are all thanks to me." As soon as the meeting ended, Lu Jingli was surrounded. "Second young master, did we hear it wrong? A woman actually called Boss Lu? Who's the one who called?" He actually called Boss Lu out of the meeting with just one phone call? That's right. Did Boss Lu have someone by his side? Which family's daughter was she? Second young master, tell us. Lu Jingli glared at them warily. "What are you doing? All of you are asking me who I am and what my intentions are? You want to suck up to me? Impossible. My future sister-in-law's thigh can only be hugged by me alone. Don't even think about it." Everyone. Was it not enough for them to just hug their toes? In a corner of the studio, Ning Xi hung up the phone with relief. It was finally done. There should be no problem now, right? It had nothing to do with her, but she was so selfless. Just as he was about to leave, his phone rang. It was Lu Jingli again. "Second young master, what's wrong? Is that not enough?" No. Little Zixi, your honey trap is amazing. The crisis has been resolved perfectly." Ning Xi's face darkened. "What honey trap? I'm clearly using the tactic of luring the tiger away from the mountain. Okay, don't you have any culture? Damn, I understand. That's it, I'm hanging up. I'll treat you to a meal next time." Looking at the phone, Ning Xi was speechless. What did this guy know? "Ning Xioxi, why are you hiding here? Let's go it." Zhang Wei came to find him. Ning Xi hurriedly looked around nervously. After making sure that no one saw him looking for her, she relaxed and leaned against the big red pillar behind her tiredly. "You guys go eat. I have something to do tonight, so I probably can't go." "What?" Zhang Wei's face changed immediately. "This is my welcome party. I'm your CP? You're not coming?" Ning Xi pinched her eyebrows. I know. It's my fault, but I do have something important to do today. Can I treat you alone next time?" "Not good." Zhang Wei was not moved by her words at all. He looked her up and down with sharp eyes. "What's so important? Who are you going to see tonight?" Ning Xi's voice sank. "It doesn't seem to have anything to do with you." Zhang Wei's face instantly darkened. "You're going to see Lu Tingxiao, aren't you?" Zhang Wei's interrogative tone made Ning Xi frown uncomfortably. So what? So what if I'm not?" Zhang Wei paced around angrily and stared at her. "Ning Xi, are you crazy? How dare you play with Lu Tingxiao? Aren't you afraid of playing with fire?" "I'm happy to play with fire. It's none of your business." Ning Xi wasn't happy with Zhang Wei's tone. "You." Zhang Wei almost went berserk. He punched the pillar behind her. "Ning Xi, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just reminding you out of kindness. Otherwise, you won't even know how you die. Do you know who Lu Tingxiao is? Do you think he's the same as those rich playboys you used to date?" Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him. "Do you think I'm an idiot? Of course I know. You know. What about me? Did you see me sleeping with Lu Tingxiao? You." Zhang Wei gradually calmed down. In fact, he knew deep down that Ning Xi wouldn't be stupid enough to do such a thing. Suppressing his anger, he took a deep breath and said, "Then tell me, what's going on?" Ning Xi also felt it was childish to argue with Zhang Wei. She was too irritated by this guy today. She was so irritated that she almost lost her temper. So she calmed down and explained to him, "I saved Xiaobao." Zhang Wei looked surprised. "You saved Xiaobao? What happened to him?" More than half a month ago, Xiaobao was taken to a bar by Lu Jingli. In order to avoid the noisy crowd, he accidentally hid in a warehouse and was locked up by the staff who didn't know. The corner of Zhang Wei's mouth twitched. "Took Xiaobao to a bar? That sounds like what my unreliable second uncle would do." "Then what? What does it have to do with you?" "I was going to audition for Under the Heavens, but Chengli locked me up in that warehouse to stop me from going." Ning Xi briefly explained what happened later. Zhang Wei listened to her patiently. "Okay, I see. You met Lu Tingxiao because you saved Xiaobao. Then the Lu family should give you a sum of money as a token of gratitude. Then you go your separate ways. Why are you still in contact with Lu Tingxiao? She even stayed in his house?" Ning Xi omitted the part where Lu Tingxiao proposed to marry her. "Because Xiaobao was shocked and I saved him, he is very dependent on me. So Lu Tingxiao asked me to stay in the Lu mansion before Xiaobao's mood stabilizes and to act as a tranquilizer for him at any time. Do you understand?" Hearing this, Zhang Wei's angry expression finally faded away, but he was still a little disgusted. He muttered, "Are you sure that's the only reason? There are so many women who want to marry into the Lu family. Now that you're in a favorable position, don't you have any improper thoughts about him?" Ning Xi raised her eyebrows and said gloomily, "Speaking of indecent thoughts, I do have indecent thoughts about Xiaobao. He's so cute that I want to take him home and make him my little lover. Zhang Wei glanced at her speechlessly, touched his forehead, and said, anyway, you'd better not have any improper thoughts. The rich and powerful are not what you think they are. Ning Xi sneered. How do you know what a rich family looks like in my imagination? What she hated the most was the so-called upper-class circle. All of them were hypocritical and wore fake masks. She had finally left the Ning family. How could she jump into the fire pit again? Zhang Wei heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Ning Xi's disgusted expression. He knew Ning Xi well. He knew she hated being tied down. To her, the Lu family's background was probably as scary as a flood or a fierce beast. Okay, you're done, now it's my turn to ask you, right? Ning Xi crossed her arms and looked at him. Zhang Wei shrugged. What do you want to know? Lu Tingxiao only has one brother and no sisters, right? Where did you get a nephew? Ning Xi asked. Zhang Wei lit a cigarette and said slowly, I'm not related to the Lu family by blood. My grandparents are friends with the Lu family. My mother died in a car accident when she was very young, so the Lu family adopted her. So according to seniority, I have to call Lu Tingxiao uncle. I see. Ning Xi squinted at him. I'm quitting smoking? Don't seduce me. Why did you quit smoking? Zhang Wei frowned. Do I need a reason to quit a bad habit? I don't know who told me that people who quit drinking and smoking were idiots. Zhang Wei complained as he snuffed out the cigarette. I've told you everything I know. Is there anything else you want to ask? Of course, there is. Ning Xi glared at him. Tell me the truth. Why did you take the role of Sun Huanqing? It's not just a supporting role. It's not a role you like at all. She was implying that he was deliberately messing with her? Zhang Wei looked innocent. What's wrong with me playing the supporting role? Who said I can't play the supporting role? What's wrong with me playing Sun Huanqing? I want to change my style and challenge myself. Can't I? Isn't it boring to always try the same style? Didn't I act pretty well today? You were so happy teasing me? Happy my ass. She would cry by tomorrow at the latest. All right, I'm going back. I promised Xiaobao that I would eat hot pot with him today. Ning Xi glanced at the time on her phone. Zhang Wei looked unhappy. Is my uncle coming with us? Of course, we'll go together. I don't dare to bring Xiaobao out alone. If something happens, who will be responsible? Zhang Wei was furious when he heard that. You still know about it? Xiaobao was the lifeblood of the entire Lu family, especially the two elders. They loved him dearly. If anything were to happen to him, they might even bury him alive. Why do you have to pick up this hot potato? Ning Xi was unhappy. What are you talking about? What hot potato? My Xiaobao is so cute. Zhang Wei sneered. I think you've been bewitched by someone's beauty. As soon as she opens her mouth to beg you, you forget everything? Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him impatiently. Fine, fine. Don't be so long-winded. Would I dare to refuse the request of the great demon King Lu? If it were you, would you dare? Look at how scared you are. Are you that scared that I'll become your aunt? Auntie. Zhang Wei was so pained by the word auntie that he couldn't say anything else. Good boy. Ning Xi patted his head. After taking advantage of him, she hopped away. Ning Xi took her handbag and explained to the director and the others that she couldn't attend tonight. Then she left. Looking at the girl's back, Zhang Wei's face was covered with a thick layer of frost. After work, Jia Qingqing finally found a chance to please Zhang Wei. What was even more perfect was that Ning Xi wasn't there. She approached Zhang Wei shyly and asked, Brother Wei, where are we going to eat? How about seafood at the Baishuan Hotel? My dad is a member there. We can go straight to the private room? Zhang Wei stretched lazily and said, Forget it, I'm too tired today. Jia Qingqing panicked. Ah, but it's your first day on the set. You should have a meal? Zhang Wei's face darkened. Who said I have to eat on the first day? If you want to eat so much, go ahead. In fact, everyone knew that Zhang Wei had a bad temper in private. When he was in a good mood, he would be good-tempered. But when he was in a bad mood, then. And now, this little devil was obviously in a bad mood. Jia Qingqing was stunned and her eyes turned red. I just think it's etiquette. Brother Wei, why did you say that? Damn it, who is your brother Wei? Zhang Wei was so annoyed that he was about to lose his temper. Guo Qishan, who was next to him, saw that the situation was not good. He came to the rescue in time and said, Let's do it another day. Wei is really tired today. We should have let him have a rest on the first day and familiarize himself with the environment. I didn't expect that he would shoot several scenes. Let's go back and rest early today. There's no hurry to have a meal together. All right then. Jia Qingqing nodded reluctantly after finding a way out of this embarrassing situation. At the same time, she hated Ning Xi again. It was all Ning Xi's fault for occupying Big Brother Mu Ye for the whole day and making him so tired that he didn't even want to eat. Jia Qingqing lowered her head and secretly flipped through several photos in her mobile phone album. She smiled maliciously. Ning Xi, just wait and see. I'll make you pay. In the Lu mansion. Baby, I'm back. Ning Xi's exhaustion was swept away as soon as she got home. Xiaobao ran to her as soon as he heard her voice, holding a glass of cold juice in his hand. Baby, you're so sweet. Love you. Ning Xi brought it over and gulped it down. Then she said happily, Come on, come on. Auntie will take you to change into cute clothes. We'll go out to eat hot pot later. Little Bun, who used to run to the attic whenever he heard that they were going out, obediently allowed Ning Xi to lead him upstairs. In the bedroom, he let her try on the clothes for him one by one. This one is too plain, this one is too dark, this one is too boring. My god, who bought these clothes for you? What kind of aesthetic sense was that? Needless to ask, it must be your father. Has he forgotten that you're only 5 and not 35? Ning Xi complained as she rummaged through the drawer. Finally, she found something she was satisfied with from the bottom of the drawer. Wow, this is so cute. He was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt with a hood and 2 long rabbit ears hanging from the hood. He was paired with a pair of overalls with a big pocket on it, just like Doraemon. Looking at this style, it must be your second uncle who bought this for you? Your second uncle is quite reliable. Children should wear cute and lively clothes. Ning Xi nodded with satisfaction and then asked, Baby, what do you think? Do you like this? If you don't like it, Auntie will find another one for you? Ning Xi didn't forget to ask for Xiaobeo's opinion, although Xiaobeo always agreed with her every time. Sure enough, this time Little Bun nodded without hesitation. So Ning Xi happily helped Little Bun put on the clothes. After helping Little Bun change, Ning Xi also went into her room to change. Coincidentally, she also had a dress very similar to Xiaobeo's, so she immediately put it on and paired it with a pair of denim overalls. When Ning Xi came out, Little Bun's eyes lit up at the sight of her. He looked at Ning Xi and then at himself, his little face full of joy and satisfaction. He even reached out to touch the rabbit ears on her hat, obviously very happy to be wearing the same clothes as Aunt Xioxi. When they were ready, the sound of a car engine rang out at the door. Lu Tingxiao was back. The temperature outside was more than 30 degrees, but Lu Tingxiao walked into the living room with his slender legs and a cold and arrogant expression as if he had come from a glacier. When his gaze fell on the 2 people on the sofa who were wearing similar clothes as if they were mother and son, starting from his ice-cold eyes, his entire body seemed to melt like an ice glacier. Xiaobeo was naturally very cute in this outfit. As for Ning Xi, the cute rabbit ears and age-reducing overalls made her look even younger. Sitting side by side with Xiaobeo, they looked more like siblings. Seeing Lu Tingxiao come back, Ning Xi immediately stood up holding Xiaobeo's hand. We're both ready. Can we go now? Lu Tingxiao nodded, his gaze lingering on the girl for a few seconds before he looked away. Let's go. After getting into the car, Ning Xi asked excitedly, Hey, Lu Tingxiao, isn't Xiaobeo's clothes cute? I only found this one after a long search. Cute, Lu Tingxiao answered, but he was looking at the girl in the rearview mirror. Ning Xi said proudly, I knew it. I should buy more cute clothes for Xiaobeo in the future? Okay. Lu Tingxiao hummed and then took out a black card from his pocket and handed it to her. What? What is this for? Ning Xi blinked, looking puzzledly at the legendary unlimited overdraft black card that she had only seen on the internet. Lu Tingxiao said, buy it. Ning Xi said, she didn't mean that, okay. Why did she throw money at him without saying anything? Forget it. Since she had already given him the money, she would buy some nice clothes for Xiaobeo later. When they arrived, Lu Tingxiao got out of the car first and then opened the door for them like a gentleman. He looked at Ning Xi and asked, Can you? After getting along with him for a long time, Ning Xi had gradually gotten used to Lu Tingxiao's simple way of speaking. She knew that he was asking if it was okay for her to appear in public like this. Ning Xi scratched her head. Are you all right? Not many people know me now, and I'm dressed like this? After saying that, he took out a pair of round amber-colored glasses without lenses from his bag and put them on. This is good. Yeah, Lu Tingxiao nodded. The 3 of them walked towards the hot pot restaurant together. Ning Xi's estimation of herself was quite accurate. No one recognized her. However, she forgot about Little Bun and Lu Tingxiao. The father and son were simply too eye-catching, especially when they stood together. It was simply murderous. Actually, Ning Xi was also very eye-catching today because of her matching outfit with Little Bun. Look at the father and son over there. They're too good-looking. The older one is handsome, and the younger one is cute. The big sister next to her is also so beautiful. This whole family was so good-looking. Did daddy bring the siblings out? Where's mom? Hearing this, Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. Fortunately, the man next to the woman said, What do you mean daddy bringing the siblings? They're a family of 3, okay. That girl is obviously the man's wife, the child's mother. No way, that girl looks very young. What do you know? They're just husband and wife. The man's looking at the girl is different from the way he looks at her, okay. It's obviously the way he looks at his wife. Ning Xi's heart pounded when she heard the discussion at the table. Big brother, let's talk this out. How did you notice that Lu Tingxiao looked at me differently? The way he looked at his wife? Hehe, that big brother might not have good eyesight. Ning Xi coughed dryly and said to Lu Tingxiao. As soon as Ning Xi finished speaking, the woman nodded in agreement. You're right, it's true. And if you look closely, although that little boy looks very much like his father, his eyes are actually very similar to his mother's, especially when he smiles. Ning Xi almost broke down when she heard that. Cough, that big sister might not have good eyesight either. How could Little Bun look like her? She wasn't Little Bun's mother? Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl's eyes without batting an eyelid. Actually, they did look a little alike. Previously, he had noticed that when Xiaobao smiled, the expression between his brows was quite similar to Ning Xi's. If it was a coincidence, then it was really a delightful fate. This little episode passed quickly. After sitting down, Ning Xi sighed comfortably. Eating hot pot with air conditioning on a hot summer day is the most enjoyable. Little Bun, I swear, you'll definitely fall in love with this feeling? This was the first time in 2 years that Little Bun ate outside, so she was a little curious about everything. She looked here and there, but her little hand always held Ning Xi's hand to feel at ease. Ning Xi flipped through the menu and asked for Lu Tingxiao's opinion. You can't eat spicy food. Then let's order a Mandarin duck hot pot. You decide. Lu Tingxiao nodded, took off his jacket, and casually placed his arm on the chair. It was a very ordinary action, but when he did it, his hormones were bursting. Ning Xi couldn't help but feel like her little dear was bouncing around. She didn't know what was going on recently, but it seemed like this was happening more and more often. Her little dear was about to faint? Was Lu Tingxiao doing this on purpose or not? Soon, the hot pot base and dishes they ordered were served. Ning Xi's fingers were instantly moved, and she threw everything to the back of her mind. The great demon King Lu was so meticulous even when he was eating hot pot. Every dish, which one was put down first and which one was put down last, and how long each dish should be put down was calculated very precisely. Throughout the entire process, he was serving her and Little Bun in an orderly manner. He was even more professional than the last time he ate at her house. Ning Xi had never eaten hot pot with such ease. She only needed to eat, and every dish was scalded just right. Unlike her, she always accidentally overcooked the dishes if they were too raw. Are you in the same crew as Mu Ye? Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked as they ate. Ning Xi was stunned for a moment before she realized that Zhang Wei was a handsome young man of golden era. He was also Lu Tingxiao's nephew, so it was not surprising that Lu Tingxiao knew about his recent situation. She nodded and said, yes, he joined the crew today. I just found out about it today. I was shocked when I saw him. Lu Tingxiao picked up a fishball for her and said casually, are you close? Ning Xi scratched her head. She felt that there was nothing to hide, so she answered directly, well, my relationship with him is a bit complicated. We dated for a while, but we broke up a long time ago. Now, we are friends, I guess. But I guess our friendship will end soon. This guy has been making enemies for me ever since he came back to China. He almost killed me. If he bullies you in the future, tell me, Lu Tingxiao said. Ning Xi laughed. Haha, no, I'm the one who bullies him in the play. As for outside the play, humph, if he dares to bully me, I'll be his aunt and beat him to death with seniority. As soon as she said that, Ning Xi and Lu Tingxiao were both stunned. Ning Xi wished she could knock her head on the ground. How could she not control this messy, seductive mouth of her seductive mouth? Ning Xi tried her best to put food in his bowl. Haha, I'm just kidding. Don't mind me. Lu Tingxiao didn't seem to be angry at all. Instead, he seemed to be in a good mood. He smiled and said, good idea. Ning Xi was dumbfounded. He actually thought it was a good idea. Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao suddenly looked at her seriously. Ning Xi was nervous under his deep gaze. What's wrong? If you change your mind, you can come to me at any time, Lu Tingxiao said. Ning Xi's heart skipped a beat. She knew he was referring to the matter of marrying him. Although Lu Tingxiao didn't mention it again after his explicit refusal last time, she could always feel that Lu Tingxiao's attitude towards her was different, and the atmosphere between them was getting more and more ambiguous. The worst thing was that her heart was gradually getting out of her control. Was it really like what Zhang Wei said? She was fascinated by beauty? After what happened 5 years ago, she thought she would never fall in love with anyone again. For a long time, she even had a big psychological problem. She was extremely repulsed and disgusted with men. Especially when she saw scumbags, she couldn't suppress the burning killing intent in her body and wanted to kill them to enforce justice on behalf of heaven. Although she had calmed down a lot in recent years, she still didn't like men, not to mention finding a man to marry. It was simply a fantasy for her. However, the man in front of her, who always had an expressionless face and a frightening aura, had unknowingly cracked open a crack in the thick shell of her heart. After eating hot pot, on the way home, Xiaobao was tired and fell asleep on the way. Ning Xi held him in her arms and didn't want to let him go. Alas, it was terrible. The big bun was enough to mess her up, and now there was the little bun. She found that the more time she spent with him, the more she liked him. She even missed him after one day of not seeing him. If she didn't hug him today, she would always feel that something was missing. This was not a good sign. After arriving home, Ning Xi carefully carried the little guy into the room. Lu Tingxiao leaned against the door frame and looked at her tenderly. Sorry to trouble you these days. Ning Xi tucked Xiaobao in, closed the door, and walked out. It's no trouble. I like Xiaobao too. After hesitating for a moment, she put on a gratified expression and said with a smile, Xiaobao's condition is getting better and better. It seems that I won't need to stay here anymore. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. You really want to leave? Ning Xi was forced to take a step back by his sharp gaze. I should have left after Xiaobao recovered. I feel bad for disturbing you for so long. Lu Tingxiao, you're welcome. Ning Xi had no choice but to look up at him with her clear eyes. But I will feel troubled. Lu Tingxiao frowned. Troubled? Yes. Ning Xi took a deep breath and said, to be honest, I'm not a self-disciplined person. Staying here, I have to watch my behavior at all times. Lu Tingxiao, you don't have to pay attention. Ning Xi touched her forehead and said helplessly, fine, even if you don't mind, I also need a private life. Occasionally, I will bring my friends over to play, and I need to relax after work. I will ride my bike, go to pubs, or go to nightclubs. If I meet a handsome guy, I will inevitably bring him back to spend the night. Enough. Lu Tingxiao's face became darker and darker, and he finally couldn't take it anymore and interrupted her. Late at night, Ning Xi was lying on the bed, her mind in a mess. Why the hell would she bring a handsome guy home? Every man who had tried to seduce her and ask her out for a night had been dragged into an alley and beaten up by her. Especially when she saw a married man with a ring mark on his finger, she wanted to beat him until he cried for his mother. As for sex life, sadly, the only time she had sex was that night 5 years ago. Maybe it was because of the trauma of the first time. She always felt disgusted by this kind of thing. Tonight, Lu Tingxiao was really angry with her. But she had no choice. She would bring it up sooner or later. It was better to leave before things got out of control. It was better to stay away from her than to have her ugliest side exposed in front of him one day. Then he would leave as soon as possible. The consequence of her restlessness was that she was haunted by all kinds of dreams in the middle of the night. In her hazy dreams, she could hear all sorts of noises whistling in her ears. Ning Xi, why do you compete with me? Except for your bloodline, you are a good for nothing. How dare you ask that bastard? What do you want to do? Are you going to give birth to him and raise him? The child was born prematurely and died. I have disposed of the body. Ning Xi, I tell you, from now on, I, Ning Yehua, don't have a daughter like you. You have nothing to do with our Ning family anymore. Xioxi, I'm sorry. Let's break up. I won't leave you alone. I will take care of you as my own sister. She ran desperately, trying to escape from these terrible voices. She ran to the top floor of the hospital. Downstairs was a bottomless abyss. The abyss seemed to have a magic power, tempting her to move forward step by step. Finally, she closed her eyes and jumped in. The moment she fell from the building, she didn't wake up as usual. Instead, she fell into another charming dream. This time it was not a nightmare. It seemed to be a wet dream. She had had similar dreams before, but each time it was accompanied by great fear and helplessness. But this time seemed to be a little different. One after another, cold kisses landed on her forehead, her eyes, her nose, and her lips in an incomparably precious manner. She didn't feel disgusted and dirty like before. Instead, she felt as if she was the most precious and important treasure of the other party. Who was he? Oh, it hurt. Why did he bite her? Even though Lu Tingxiao tried his best to restrain himself, he still couldn't control himself and walked into her room. He knew that he shouldn't wake her up, but his actions were unconsciously tainted with violence. This woman was always able to drive him crazy easily. If I meet a handsome guy that I like, it's inevitable that I'll bring him back for the night. This sentence was like a rapidly colliding asteroid, shattering his rationality into dust. When his lips and tongue slid down to the girl's smooth neck, he could no longer control the swelling desire in his chest. He bit down fiercely, like a wild beast using the most primitive method to conquer its prey. That. The moment the smell of blood filled the air, he heard the girl's weak voice. Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened, and he felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. The man was still buried in her neck. The pain on her neck almost made Ning Xi scream, but she could only endure it and awkwardly remind him, cough, that. I'm just asleep, not dead. You're making so much noise. I'll wake up. Originally, she wanted to pretend, but in the end, she really couldn't pretend anymore. It hurt so much. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's deep eyes had already blended into one with the night sky. He slowly raised his head and locked his gaze on her. His fingers pinched her chin and gently caressed it. His voice was like a demon from hell, I'm awake, so what? The moment his words fell, he locked her hands and pressed them heavily on top of her head. Then he bent down and kissed her lips without hesitation. Ugh. Ning Xi subconsciously wanted to break free, but her hands were imprisoned, and her legs were pressed down by the man's knees. She looked like she wanted to take whatever she wanted. What the **CK is going on? Was she still dreaming and hadn't woken up yet? When the air in Ning Xi's chest became less and less and she was almost at her last breath, Lu Tingxiao finally let go of her lips temporarily and shifted his attention to her neck that had been bitten just now. His hot tongue moved back and forth on the wound, as if he was comforting her, but it was even more creepy. Hey, Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi called out a few times, but the other party didn't respond and continued to work on her body. At this moment, the man didn't have his usual gentlemanly demeanor, nor did he have the gentleness she was familiar with. His sharp teeth slid from her neck to her collarbone and even lower. No. The dormant memories in her mind surged out, gradually engulfing her like a sticky swamp, causing her entire body to tremble. Just as Ning Xi was in so much pain that she wanted to die, all her movements suddenly stopped, leaving a heavy and hard body on top of her like a mountain, motionless. The suffocating feeling of being in a deep swamp suddenly disappeared, leaving only a dazed heart. Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi tried to pat the man's shoulder, but there was no reaction. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, the other party still didn't move. Ning Xi softened her movements and carefully flipped him to the side. With the moonlight outside the window, she saw the man lying there calmly with his eyes closed, like a sleeping king, as if that terrifying beast wasn't him at all. What the hell? What was going on? Could it be sleepwalking? Ning Xi mumbled to herself. It seemed like this was the only explanation that made sense. But wasn't Lu Tingxiao's method of sleepwalking too original? In the middle of the night, he came to her room and bit her like a vampire, and he could still talk to her properly? Lu Tingxiao's breathing was steady and long, and he looked like he was asleep. Ning Xi didn't dare to wake him up, afraid that he would go crazy again, but she couldn't rest assured leaving him like this. But it was the middle of the night, who could she look for? After thinking about it, she thought of someone. She picked up her phone and dialed Lu Jingli's number. Hey, little Zixi? Wow, you actually called me at this hour. What happened? What happened? Lu Jingli's voice was very loud, almost shouting. Ning Xi was worried that she would disturb him by calling him so late at night, but she heard Lu Jingli's excited voice on the other end of the phone. There was a lot of noise in the background. It seemed like he was having an all-nighter party. Lu Jingli, let me ask you something. Ask. Your brother, what's wrong with my brother? Is this guy a repeater? You have to repeat your words twice? Ning Xi was speechless for a while, then asked anxiously, does your brother have the problem of sleepwalking? Ning Xi, who was on the phone, didn't notice that the man lying beside her stiffened imperceptibly after she asked this question. He had only come up with this idea on the spur of the moment. He had never thought that Ning Xi would call Lu Jingli. What if Lu Jingli, that idiot, let it slip? Then break his legs? On the other end of the phone, Lu Jingli suddenly fell silent for a few seconds, making Ning Xi even more anxious. She urged, second young master, is there a problem or not? If it was just sleepwalking, it shouldn't be a big problem. But if Lu Tingxiao had some other illness, she had to send him to the hospital immediately? It was scary to suddenly turn into a werewolf and fall asleep in the middle of the night. Oh, I was just a little curious why you suddenly asked this. He does have this problem. How do you know my brother sleepwalks? Lu Jingli answered on the other end of the phone. His voice didn't sound strange at all. Ning Xi finally breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. She pretended to be relaxed and laughed, it's nothing. I just came down to drink water in the middle of the night when I was thirsty. I was scared when I saw him standing in the living room in a daze. Really? Lu Jingli's tone was quite playful. He then said seriously, it's nothing. It's an old problem. Don't worry about him. Continue to let him do what he's doing now. Don't wake him up. He'll go back to his room later. Let him continue, and not wake him up? Then, okay, I got it. Worried that Lu Jingli would hear something strange, Ning Xi quickly hung up the phone. She looked at Lu Tingxiao who was lying next to her with a headache. Was she going to let him lie here like this without waking him up? What if he sleepwalked again? She was so worried. Because of this sudden change, the panic in Ning Xi's heart that almost made her collapse had completely disappeared. She looked at the unconscious man next to her, and the more she looked, the angrier she became. Finally, she reached out and pinched his face to vent her anger. Bastard, you slept so comfortably. I was almost scared to death by you. Lu Tingxiao, who had gone crazy, was quite obedient and looked harmless. She pinched him a few times before she stopped. Now it seemed that she could only wait for him to leave. She heard that if a sleepwalker was woken up, he would be greatly frightened and might even die. She was obviously the one who was more frightened. Ning Xi was going to sleep after Lu Tingxiao left, but she didn't expect to hear a rhythmic heartbeat in her ears. She fell asleep unknowingly. After a long time, the man beside her slowly opened his ink-black eyes, revealing an expression of relief. Then, he looked at the girl absent-mindedly, his fingers gently touching her slightly furrowed brows, a complicated expression on his face. The next morning, Ning Xi was woken up by a phone call. His first reaction wasn't to answer the phone but to turn his head to the side. As expected, Lu Tingxiao was no longer around. Therefore, she groped for the phone in a daze and pressed the answer button. The next second, Cheng Li's angry voice immediately came from the phone. Ning Xi, you did a good job. I've already warned you to watch your words and actions. Don't bring shame to the company, but you did it. Now the whole company's face has been lost because of you? Ning Xi immediately woke up. What happened? Cheng Li snapped, go on Weibo and see for yourself. Ning Xi climbed out of bed, quickly turned on the computer, and logged into her Weibo. Then, she realized that her Weibo had exploded. Under normal circumstances, most artists' Weibo was managed by their agencies. Of course, Ning Xi didn't have that kind of treatment. She didn't buy any fans, nor did she do anything. She only had over 30,000 fans on Weibo, which was even lower than an internet celebrity. Usually, she liked to share some trivial things in her life, and every time, her comments and likes were less than 100. But now, there were suddenly tens of thousands of ads and comments popping up overnight. She browsed through these messages as fast as she could and finally figured out what had happened. Ning Xi was vilified very badly. In the middle of the night, a popular Weibo blogger posted a long post with the title, Scheming Bitch Ning Xi, I've never seen such a shameless person in the history of her career. The post basically said that she slept with all the directors, hooked up with rich old men, and tricked them into giving her gifts. She took advantage of Zhang Wei on purpose during the filming. The post even said that she always left her room door open when she was on set, and anyone who wanted to sleep with her could just go in and sleep with her. It made her look like a slut with no bottom line. Zhang Wei's fans were furious. They protested that their idol had to act with such a woman and strongly demanded that the second female lead be replaced. The comments under Ning Xi's latest post were simply unbearable. They were all insulting her, and everyone was shouting, Ning Xi, get out of the entertainment circle. Did you see it clearly? Send me an apology statement to save the company's image? Cheng Li ordered angrily. Ning Xi sneered. Apology statement. Usually, when an artist signed with a company encountered such a situation, the agency would arrange a special public relations team to distance themselves as much as possible to reduce the impact. But Cheng Li, she didn't want her to save the company's image. She wanted to completely vilify her, because if she apologized, she would admit everything in the post. Yes, I want to see it before 8 o'clock tonight. It's best if you record a video and show your sincerity. Otherwise, you'll be kicked out of the crew. Even the company won't be able to protect you then. Cheng Li threw down this threat and hung up the phone. After this call, Ning Xi completely lost her sleepiness. She had already expected this situation, but she didn't expect them to come so soon. It seemed that Jia Qingqing couldn't wait any longer. With Ning Xueluo adding fuel to the fire, she was pushed to the teeth of the storm in just one night. Very well, come on. I was afraid that they wouldn't come. Ning Xi washed up and got out of bed. Then she took out her makeup and began to put on makeup. Half an hour later, she looked at her pale and pitiful face in the mirror and nodded with satisfaction. Just as she cleaned up the table, there was a knock on the door. Ning Xi got up to open the door and was stunned. It was Lu Tingxiao, the werewolf from last night. After what happened last night, she felt a little weird to see him again. Before Ning Xi could speak, when Lu Tingxiao saw her extremely pale and haggard face, his expression immediately became extremely cold. Without saying a word, he picked up his phone and began to search for contacts. Ning Xi caught a glimpse of his finger pausing on the name Liang Fixing. Liang Fixing, the public relations director of Shenxi Entertainment, had a pair of hands that could turn the tide. He had solved the scandals of artists perfectly many times and restored their images. He could be regarded as a textbook example of public relations practitioners. Ning Xi of her mind immediately and grabbed Lu Tingxiao's phone. Lu Tingxiao, what are you doing? Take care of those things. Lu Tingxiao's expression was unusually ugly. It was obvious that he already knew what had happened on the internet. Ning Xi looked helplessly at the enemy's boss who was going to cheat on her without saying a word. If Shenxi suddenly, she set up, she would and she would be of Liang. Of Xing would be, would. And Yan would of the company would. She of Shenxi in up. And. Sheng up the companies, Ning and Ying Yan would Cheng, and. Of the company of Ming, she. Ning Xi said in a relaxed tone, if I can't stand this, how can I continue to work in the entertainment circle? Didn't you say you trusted me last time? But you don't look convincing now. Lu Tingxiao looked serious. Ning Xi was confused. Then she remembered her makeup and explained, I put on my pale face and dark circles just now. I'm not pretending to be strong. If you don't believe me, do you want me to remove my makeup for you? Before she finished, Lu Tingxiao suddenly reached out and touched her cheeks and eyes with his fingertips. It was just a light touch, but Ning Xi couldn't help shivering as if she had been electrocuted. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened at Ning Xi's reaction. He quickly withdrew his hand. Don't force yourself. Ning Xi smiled. No, I won't. If I can't handle it, I'll definitely come back to you. Lu Tingxiao's face softened. Okay. Then Ning Xi scratched her head and looked at him, as if she wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. What do you want to say? Lu Tingxiao asked in a gentle tone, totally different from last night. Ning Xi looked at him with a complicated expression for a long time and finally couldn't help saying, ahem. Well, Lu Tingxiao, have you ever thought about finding a woman to keep you company? What do you mean? Lu Tingxiao's face instantly turned cold. Don't blame me for being nosy. I just think. Ning Xi tried to choose her words carefully and then patted him on the shoulder. I think you may need a woman. It's not good for your health to endure it. There was a saying that what you think about in the day, you dream about at night. Lu Tingxiao didn't seem to be interested in women, but from his performance last night, it was clear that he needed a woman. This time Lu Tingxiao's face was completely dark. Damned woman, who do you think did this to me? Who do you think made me endure so miserably when I was already at the edge of my mouth? Seeing Lu Tingxiao's face getting darker and darker, Ning Xi coughed and hurried away. I'm running out of time. I'm going to say goodbye to Xiaobao and then go to the set. Bye-bye. In the suburb of the studio, as soon as Ning Xi appeared, a group of Zhang Wei's fans who had been waiting for a long time rushed towards her excitedly. Ning Xi is here. That bitch is here. How dare she come here? Disgusting bitch. Do not come near our Muya. Get out of the cast. Ning Xi, get out of the cast. Ning Xi, get out of the entertainment circle. Get out. It was a mess. Only a few security guards were escorting Ning Xi inside, and the rest of the crew were watching the fun, pointing at her from time to time and laughing sarcastically. Those gazes were like knives cutting her inch by inch. Those malicious gazes were like ferocious snakes and beasts that wanted to tear her apart. Ning Xi couldn't help but think of a female star who had been very popular for a while, but in the end, she was forced to commit suicide by rumors. After she died, there were only 4 words on her suicide note: gossip is a fearful thing. Rotten eggs and vegetables were constantly thrown at them from the crowd. Someone even threw a stone at them, but it was skewed. Seeing that the stone was about to hit Ning Xi's expression changed. She jumped up agilely and blocked the stone with her arms when it was only half a meter away from In the next second, the place where his arm was smashed immediately became drenched in blood. When the excited fans saw this scene, they were all stunned. Even I was scared silly. Ning Xi's face was pale. She glanced at the fans coldly. You can make trouble, but come at me. Don't hurt the innocent. You, stop being a hypocrite. That's right. Stop pretending to be a good person, you're a shameless vixen. Ning Xi's gaze became even sharper. Who decides whether I'm a good person or a bad person? A Weibo post without any evidence? Or a groundless rumor? Although you're young, I hope you can think before you do anything. Fans pay for their idols' actions. Everything you do represents your idols. Don't be ignorant when you're being used. Don't tarnish your idol's reputation. Ning Xi knew that they wouldn't listen to anything she said, except for talking about the idols they cared about. You don't have the right to lecture us. Actually, I think she's right. Who was the one who threw the stone? Step forward. Didn't we agree not to use violence and use eggs? That's right. Who was it? We're here for justice, not to tarnish Mu Ye's reputation. The rioting fans calmed down and Ning Xi finally squeezed into the filming location. Seeing her, Guo Qixin quickly called her into the lounge. Ning Xi, you're here? Come and sit down. Director, I'm sorry for causing trouble for the crew. Ning Xi bowed deeply, looking guilty. Seeing her haggard appearance, Guo Qixin comforted her. You're not the one who caused trouble. Others may not understand you, but I do. The accusation that you have no acting skills is bullshit. As for, the accusation that you slept with someone in the crew, as the person involved, how can I not understand? I've seen this kind of thing many times. I know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. Thank you, Director. She was really grateful that Guo Qixin was still on her side at this time. But this incident has affected you greatly. You look so haggard. Why don't I give you a few days off and let you rest? Guo Qixin suggested. Ning Xi immediately said, no need. Director, I want to continue filming. Because of me, the crew has already been greatly affected. If I drag down the progress of the crew, I really won't be able to absolve myself of the blame. Seeing her determined attitude, Guo Qixin revealed a gratified expression. Oh, all right. If you can't hold on, you must tell me. After coming out of the director's office, Ning Xi was suddenly pulled to an empty corner by a huge force. The man looked anxious, and even the golden retriever looked a little listless. Ning Xi, is your hand all right? It's just a small injury. I've already taken care of it, Ning Xi said nonchalantly. Zhang Wei looked irritated. I was going to release a statement to explain to my fans, but Brother Ming changed my Weibo password and didn't allow me to log in. He said that if I came out now, it would be more harmful to you. Ning Xi patted her chest and showed a grateful expression. Fortunately, Brother Ming is smart. Zhang Wei's face was full of hurt. Heartless woman, I did it to help you. Ning Xi said helplessly, if you really want to help me, I'll warn you in advance. Later, I'll pretend to be a little white flower. Cooperate with me and don't do anything stupid. Otherwise, don't blame me for breaking up with you. Zhang Wei picked his ears and pretended to be in disbelief. What did you say you were going to pretend to be? Little white flower, is there a problem? Are you sure that a tyrant flower like you can complete such a difficult challenge? Get lost. Coincidentally, most of Ning Xi's scenes were with Jia Qingqing. Sitting under the shade of a tree and studying the script, she suddenly heard a sarcastic voice. Hey, isn't this our superstar? Ning Xi, you're famous now, so popular that everyone knows you. Haha, I know what you've done. You're really shameless. How dare you come to the crew after such a thing happened? Jia Qingqing gloated. As long as Ning Xi was kicked out of the crew, she could take her place and act with Brother Mui. Ning Xi bit her lip and trembled. She kept silent with an embarrassed expression. Jia Qingqing was even more complacent. She moved closer to Zhang Wei and said coyly, Brother Mui, you'd better stay away from this kind of person. Otherwise, your reputation will be ruined by her. You're starting to lose fans because of her. As Jia Qingqing moved closer, a pungent perfume smell wafted over. The blue veins on Zhang Wei's forehead bulged. He was about to lose his temper, but he remembered Ning Xi's warning and took a deep breath. Seeing that Zhang Wei ignored her, Jia Qingqing thought he was in a bad mood. She comforted him considerately, Brother Mui, don't worry. Sooner or later, the crew can't bear the pressure and will replace Ning Xi. You're very noisy. Zhang Wei used all his self-control to change all the curses into these 3 words. I'm sorry, Brother Mui. I won't disturb your rest. Jia Qingqing walked away, feeling wronged. She was dissatisfied with Zhang Wei's cold attitude, but she soon felt relieved. Anyway, she would have plenty of opportunities to spend time with Brother Mui when she got the supporting role. She couldn't suppress her excitement at the thought of those intimate scenes. Why did the director ask her to continue shooting with Ning Xi today? What a waste of time. However, she liked the scene today. There was a scene where she slapped Ning Xi in the face. Humph, she would teach her a lesson? Director, I think it would be better if I slapped her in this scene. What do you think? Jia Qingqing, who never cared about shooting, rarely took the initiative to talk to the director about the scene. Guo Qixin knew what she was thinking. He said seriously, the main point is to borrow the angle. At most, the face will be scratched a little. Got it. Jia Qingqing agreed verbally, but she had no intention of listening at all. She had made up her mind to slap him for real, and she wanted to slap him a few more times to let this slut suffer a little more. Anyway, this was not the first time she had done something like this, and she had never failed. After all the departments were ready, the shooting began. In this scene, Meng Chang'e had just entered the palace. She had assumed the name of Nan Wu Meng and was just a lowly palace maid. Because the emperor had taken an extra glance at her, concubine Liang was jealous and summoned her to the palace to make things difficult for her. Shameless bitch, how dare you seduce his majesty right under my nose? Concubine Liang said and slapped her hard. At the moment when Jia Qingqing made her move, Ning Xi narrowed her eyes and leaned slightly to one side, cleverly avoiding the camera and Jia Qingqing's hand. But her body seemed to be hit by a huge force. She fell to the ground in embarrassment, then her face tilted and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Ning Xi Guokishan was startled. The other onlookers were also frightened by this scene and surrounded her. Jia Qingqing, is this your first day of acting? You can't even control your own strength? Guokishan was usually good-tempered, but this time he was really angry. He couldn't intervene in things outside the play, but if someone did such a dirty thing in his play, he would never tolerate it. Jia Qingqing was also startled. She did deliberately use her strength, but it was absolutely not enough to make Ning Xi fall to the ground and spit blood. Just now, she clearly felt that Ning Xi dodged, and she didn't touch her at all. So she straightened her neck and cried in justice, I just slapped her lightly, I didn't use any strength at all. She was pretending. However, Jia Qingqing had a bad reputation in the industry and had done this kind of thing many times. Besides, she had always been against Ning Xi, so no one believed her. Director, I'm fine. It's just a little cut in my mouth. I'll be fine after drinking some ice water. Maybe Sister Qingqing just wanted the effect to be better. Please don't be angry. Ning Xi pretended to be aggrieved, but she tried to hold it in. Not only the director, but the others also felt sorry for her. Zhang Wei was watching from the side. The corner of his mouth twitched. He was almost shocked to death. This girl was really good at pretending to be innocent. Jia Qingqing was furious when she saw her delicate look. Ning Xi, you're still pretending? You did it on purpose. You bit yourself? Did you hide a blood capsule in your mouth in advance? Jia Qingqing, that's enough. Guokishan shouted. Jia Qingqing's assistant was afraid that things would get out of hand. She hurriedly stopped her. Sister Qingqing, let it go. Don't make the director angry. After all, we're also at fault. Obviously, she also thought that Jia Qingqing did it on purpose. She had seen this kind of thing many times when she was with Jia Qingqing. Jia Qingqing gave her a backhand slap. Get out of my face. You don't have the right to order me around. The assistant fell to the ground like Ning Xi, with blood at the corner of her mouth. The surrounding crew members, especially those who were not of high status like the assistant, all rushed to help her up. They looked at Jia Qingqing with disgust. Although Ning Xi's private life was messy, she never affected others and was very dedicated to her work. But Jia Qingqing was simply a shrew. It was the first time that Jia Qingqing had been wronged. Seeing that no one believed her, her face turned livid, as if she would faint the next second. Just when she was about to lose control and tear Ning Xi apart, someone suddenly came up to her and held her wrist. Qingqing, I know you want to impress the director, but you don't have to be so serious. People who know you will say you're dedicated to your work, but what will people who don't know you think? It was Ning Xueluo who had just arrived. Ning Xueluo didn't have any scenes today. She didn't need to come, but she still came to see Ning Xi being unlucky. She didn't expect to see such a scene. What was Jia Qingqing doing? How did she beat such a good deck of cards? Seeing that everyone was about to sympathize with Ning Xi because of their extreme hatred for Jia Qingqing, Ning Xueluo immediately stepped forward to help. When Jia Qingqing saw Ning Xueluo, it was as if she had seen a relative. She immediately pulled her away and cried, Sister Xueluo, this slut slandered me. Ning Xueluo was afraid that she would spout nonsense again, so she dragged her to a corner. Why are you so impatient? Ningxi will be driven away sooner or later. Why are you provoking her now? Jia Qingqing said angrily. At first, I decided to teach her a lesson, but before I could even touch her, she dodged by herself. She even deliberately acted as though she was beaten by me to the point of vomiting blood. Ning Xueluo looked at Ning Xi, who was being comforted by the director, and immediately saw through her trick. She hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. Qingqing, it's useless for me to believe you. The problem is that no one believes you. You can't explain the current situation. The best way is to apologize to Ning Xi immediately. When Jia Qingqing heard that, she exploded. What? Let me apologize? I won't go. Sister Xueluo, how can you stand on her side and speak for her? Ning Xueluo was furious. Don't you see that everyone is starting to sympathize with her because of this? Do you want her to make a comeback so that she can continue to act with your brother Mui? Jia Qingqing hesitated for a while, but still refused to give in. Anyway, I won't go. I'd rather die than apologize to that bitch. How could such a small thing cause any impact? She could just buy some small gifts to send these people away. Ning Xueluo could only give up when she realized that she couldn't persuade her. She hoped that she wouldn't make any more mistakes. Ning Xi's reputation had been ruined. No matter how scheming she was, she could only play these little tricks. What else could she do? It wouldn't be long before the unidentified sugar daddy behind Ning Xi dumped her. Who would want a lover who had a bad reputation and made a cuckold of herself? Thinking of this, Ning Xueluo felt a little relieved. Guo Qishan thought for a while and didn't ask them to reshoot the last scene to avoid any conflict. He directly used the scene where Ning Xi was beaten and vomited blood. The second scene today was Meng Chang'e being concubine. Concubine Liang lost favor and was banished to the Cold Palace. Meng Chang'e went to the Cold Palace to visit concubine Liang and told her her true identity. Fortunately, this scene was relatively safe. There were only expressions and dialogue. There was no action. 3, 2, 1 action. The shooting began. In the cold palace, Concubine De sat on a wide chair and looked at the woman who fell at her feet as if she was looking at a dying person. Concubine Liang, do you know why I hate you so much? Why do I have to kill you? Bitch, you are jealous of me? Jealous that the emperor likes me? Jealous that I am favored? Concubine De burst into laughter as if she had heard a big joke. I am jealous of you? Jealous that you are favored by that old man? Concubine De, you. Are you crazy? I will tell the emperor? I will tell the emperor that you insulted. Concubine De suddenly shot a gloomy look at Concubine Liang and forced her to shut up. Then she said word by word, Concubine Liang, do you know who I am? Do you still remember the name? Meng Changa? You. Jia Qingqing stuttered for a long time. Guo Qishan shouted, cut. Again. The second take began. Concubine Liang, do you know who I am? Do you still remember the name? Meng Changa? This time, Ning Xi's eyes were sharper than the last time. She clutched the man's neck like a gallows. You are. Stop. Again. The third take began. Concubine Liang, do you know who I am? Do you still remember the name? Meng Changa? Ning Xi's emotions became more and more intense. This time, she said this line in a murderous tone. Even the onlookers could feel her endless anger and resentment. You are Meng Changa? How could you be? Jia Qingqing was like a jammed radio, forgetting her lines again. Cut. This time, Guo Qishan finally lost his patience. He threw the script and flew into a rage. Jia Qingqing, what's wrong with you? You can't even memorize such a simple line. Do you even read the script? Guo Qishan couldn't be blamed for being angry. It was rare for Ning Xi to be in such a good mood this time, which made him very excited. It could have been a perfect scene, but it was ruined by Jia Qingqing's idiotic mistake. All the onlookers looked at this scene with disdain. Is Jia Qingqing an idiot? Over and over again, it's just this one sentence, and I've already memorized it. Are you Meng Changa? How could you be Meng Changa? Meng Changa is dead. Is it difficult to recite that sentence? That post also said that Ning Xi's acting was bad. He should have seen Jia Qingqing and then he would know what real bullsh** T is. Actually, Ning Xi's acting is very good. Haven't you noticed that she has finished all her scenes in one take? Even if she NGS, it was because of other people's mistakes. That seems to be true. I thought it was because of her acting, but yesterday she was also very good when she played the young Meng Changa. Although she was flirting with Zhang Wei, I don't know why it didn't make me feel that she was a pervert. Instead, I was excited. Yes, I was so excited when I saw it yesterday. If it were someone else, I wouldn't have liked it. It seems that in my heart, Meng Changa is Ning Xi. Ning Xi didn't expect that there would be a worse situation. She immediately scolded Jia Qingqing hundreds of times in her heart, but still pretended to be concerned and walked over. Qingqing, what's wrong with you? Are you in a bad mood today? Jia Qingqing was in a state of rage and said frantically, I don't know what's wrong with me. Whenever I look at Ning Xi, I forget my lines. It's like I'm bewitched. How could this be? Ning Xi didn't quite believe Jia Qingqing's words. She thought it was because Jia Qingqing's acting was bad and she didn't work hard. But she still comforted her patiently. Take your time. Let me help you. Ning Xi accompanied her to go through the scene, and Jia Qingqing smoothly said her lines. See, isn't it good? Ning Xi encouraged her. Jia Qingqing immediately regained her confidence and ran to the director. Director, I'm ready. Guo Qishan had barely calmed down at this moment. He relaxed a little and said, then let's begin. However, this time, Jia Qingqing still forgot her lines. Unwilling to give up, she tried again and again. In the end, she got 28 NGS in a row. It was just a simple scene, but the two of them kept shooting until night time. In the end, everyone in the crew complained. This was filming a movie, not a TV series. They had to use film, and there were so many NGS. It took a lot of manpower and a lot of money to waste. On the 33rd NG, Jia Qingqing stood there in a daze. Suddenly, she screamed like a mad woman and pounced towards Ning Xi. Ning Xi, you bitch, what did you do to me? Why can't I remember my lines? Why can't I remember my lines? It's you. It must be your doing. The assistant and the others quickly tried to pull her back, but they were all pushed away by her. Even Ning Xi was scratched by her claws when she tried to stop her. This time, everyone really hated her. He's really retarded. How can it be someone else's fault that he can't remember his lines? Could other people sneak into her head and steal her lines? You've caused so many people to work so late into the night, yet you don't feel guilty at all. Ning Xi is also quite miserable. She provoked such a person. Don't you feel that what happened last night was very strange? As soon as Zhang Wei joined the crew, this kind of thing happened to Ning Xi. If Ning Xi is driven out of the crew, who will benefit the most? Do you still need to ask? At this point, everyone had a knowing expression on their faces. In the end, everyone left on bad terms. Jia Qingqing made a scene and was suspended by the director for 2 days so that she could calm down. Ning Xi removed her makeup and was about to leave. Ning Xi walked in quietly with her arms crossed and a contemptuous look on her face. Ning Xi, I didn't expect you to be so scheming. What? Am I scheming? Ning Xi glanced at the scratches on Ning Xi's arm with a faint smile. Then she blinked and said innocently, isn't it because you have a good taste and are good at choosing your teammates? You. Ning Xi gritted her teeth. She was so angry that her chest hurt. She didn't know that Jia Qingqing could be so stupid. Ning Xi was so black, but Jia Qingqing managed to whitewash her. Now the crew began to change their opinion of Ning Xi. Ning Xi would definitely do something next. She had to think of a way to deal with it. She couldn't let Ning Xi make a comeback. After a short confrontation with Ning Xi, Ning Xi was walking out when her phone rang. She received a message. Dirty Demon King, I'll wait for you at the entrance of the alley. Ning Xi replied cautiously, let's go our separate ways. See you at home. I'll go to your house to find you. An hour later, in Platinum Palace number 6. As soon as Ning Xi walked to the door, Zhang Wei immediately pulled her in. He craned his head and looked around like an underground gangster. Before, he didn't care about Ning Xi's relationship with him at all. He even wanted everyone to know that they were close. But after this experience, he had to reconsider what he had done before. Ning Xi put down her bag, kicked off her shoes, and sat on the sofa with her legs crossed. The first thing she did was to stretch out her hand and ask, did you take the video? Zhang Wei looked at her with a speechless face. She didn't see him as a man at all, did she? Why was she always so casual in front of him? She acted like a hooligan, just like how she acted in the movie. Do you think I'm a stupid teammate? Of course I did. Zhang Wei handed the phone to her grumpily. He had guessed what she was going to do when she said she was going to pretend to be a little white flower. Of course, he had taken all the wonderful scenes in time. Ning Xi took the phone and looked at the videos one by one. She nodded with satisfaction. Good. I'll add a drumstick for you. After saying that, she opened Weibo and used her main account to post a Weibo post. Of course, the content was not the apology that Cheng Li had requested, but 4 words, the innocent are innocent. After that, she logged into her Smurf account and sent a private message to a gossip blogger who she knew belonged to Golden Era, revealing Jia Qingqing's continuous NGS to him. The two were indeed sworn enemies. Not long after Ning Xi sent the private message, the blogger immediately posted the video with a very eye-catching caption, NG 33 times, the number 1 pretty face in the entertainment circle will show you what shitty acting skills are. Zhang Wei glanced at her. Just this one? Not using the other videos? I worked so hard to secretly take photos. Ning Xi buried her head in the comments. This is enough to get the ball rolling. We don't have to do it ourselves. Do you think you were the only one who took the video? By the way, why didn't you use that move on Jia Qingqing earlier? If you had used it earlier, she would have been replaced. There wouldn't have been so much trouble. I had to put up with that woman for 2 days? Zhang Wei muttered discontentedly. No one on the scene understood why Jia Qingqing kept taking NGS. Only Zhang Wei knew what was going on. It was because Ning Xi was deliberately suppressing the scene. Usually, only experienced actors could do this. They would deliberately show off their acting skills to oppress the other party psychologically, so that the other party would not be able to perform well and keep forgetting the lines. In serious cases, it could even cause a permanent psychological shadow to the other party. Very few people in the entertainment circle could do this. The most important thing was that this method was hard to be seen through, because it was hard to tell whether the other party was performing well or deliberately suppressing the scene. Therefore, this method could hurt the other party without leaving any trace. Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him. Of course I can't use my ultimate skill. This method also needed a specific situation. For example, today's scene was very suitable for suppressing Jia Qingqing. In addition, this method would seriously affect the shooting process, so she would never use it unless it was absolutely necessary. Zhang Wei couldn't help but recall some unpleasant memories. He curled his lips and said, then I'm really honored to be one of the few people whom you let go of your ultimate skill. He had also been suppressed by Ning Xi with this method, but he was not a piece of trash like Jia Qingqing. Later, he got over it and his acting skills improved greatly. Zhang Wei suddenly stared at her with burning eyes. Shall we have dinner together tonight? You promised to treat me to dinner alone. You also promised to play games with me some other day? Ning Xi was indeed in the wrong, so she could only sigh helplessly. Okay. I'll eat with you and play with you, okay? I'll text Lu Tingxiao and tell him. Zhang Wei's expression changed immediately. You're just a temporary tranquilizer. Why didn't you go back home? What's your relationship with Lu Tingxiao? Although I sent the message to Lu Tingxiao, I sent it to Xiaobao, okay? Ning Xi didn't bother to answer him. She buried her head and typed a message, sweetheart, I'm busy tonight and may come back very late. Be a good boy and go to bed. When I'm free, I'll buy you cute clothes. Love you. Zhang Wei's eyes turned red with anger when he saw that message. Why are you so gentle to Xiaobao? You were never so gentle when you were with me. And you always beat me. Ning Xi squinted at him. Who asked you to be beaten? Xiaobao is so cute. How can you compare with him? Zhang Wei's beautiful eyes were burning. Ning Xi, did you even like me back then? Did you get close to me just to? Ning Xi looked at him in surprise. Nonsense, of course not. You. Zhang Wei pointed at her and couldn't say anything for a long time. Ning Xi held her chin and looked at him with a smile. What do you think? Are you satisfied with your anger? Do you still want to eat now? Zhang Wei gritted his teeth. Eat. He could not fall into her trap. At the same time, in the Lu residence, Lu Jingli hugged a pillow and sat on the sofa. If he had a tail behind him, it would be wagging like crazy. Brother, tell me quickly. What happened last night? Lu Tingxiao's face was still a little gloomy because of what Ning Xi had said in the morning. He wasn't in the mood to satisfy Lu Jingli's curiosity. Could it be that you couldn't control the raging fire of love in your heart? You lost control and ran to attack her at night. But you didn't control your strength and woke Xi up. You were in a dilemma, so you simply pretended to be sleepwalking. Lu Jingli's imagination was really good. Lu Tingxiao looked up at him. This guy's cleverness was all in this kind of thing, wasn't it? Looking at his brother's expression, Lu Jingli knew he had guessed right. He immediately put on an expression as if he was about to fall in love with himself. Oh my god, I'm so smart. Brother, am I your sweet little cotton-padded jacket? Seeing that Lu Jingli was begging for a reward, Lu Tingxiao said generously, let's change the holiday to 1 month. Lu Jingli was so excited that he almost jumped up and did a set of radio gymnastics on the spot. Then, he said with great regret, brother, as the saying goes, the first beat of the drum is the second beat of the drum, the third beat of the drum is exhausted. Why don't you take the opportunity to pounce on little Xi? What a pity? Lu Tingxiao glanced at him coldly. What do you think the result will be? Well, Lu Jingli touched his chin and said thoughtfully, you've been using Xiaobao as an excuse to make her so defenseless. If you let the cat out of the bag at this time, Xi will probably jump out of the bag immediately. Lu Tingxiao. Although this was the truth, when Lu Jingli said it out loud, it really put him in a bad mood. In fact, last night he did want to have her at all costs, but Ning Xi's unintentional reaction of extreme rejection and fear instantly woke him up. Later it turned out that what he did was right. Otherwise, Ning Xi would really be scared away by him in that situation. Why did she react like that? What had she experienced? Brother, can I ask you a question? Why are your emotions fluctuating so much recently? Did something happen? Lu Jingli asked cautiously. In fact, this was a euphemism. In fact, he was as irritable and capricious as a woman on her period. Lu Tingxiao's slender fingers rhythmically tapped on the armrest of the chair and said quietly, it was Zhang Wei who sent the flowers that day. What did you say? Lu Jingli was stunned for a long time before he realized what Lu Tingxiao said. Then he jumped up in anger. Damn, the dirty demon king is actually Zhang Wei? Didn't he just return to China the day before yesterday? I also heard that he was going to play the supporting role in the world. She didn't expect him to have such a relationship with little Xi. It seemed that the first film he took after returning to the country was this one. It was worth pondering. You know, he had a lot of intimate scenes with Xi in the film. Tisk tisk. Let me think. Has he seen Xi recently? Did you see him? And you even saw some ambiguous scenes? Lu Tingxiao. Lu Jingli's guess was spot on. Oh my god, no wonder you've been acting weird lately. Lu Jingli stormed forward. I never thought there would be a traitor among us. What about YS? Did you find anything? Lu Tingxiao's eyes darkened. The person who delivered the diamond disappeared after leaving the set. The source of the diamond is unknown. It's very likely that it was smuggled through a special channel. The corner of Lu Jingli's mouth twitched. He was speechless. Another headache. It can't be someone related to the Lu family, right? Y.S. Is there anyone with these 2 letters in their initials? I don't think so. Sigh, his own brother's relationship was really full of twists and turns. Others were in a romantic idol drama, while he was in a mystery detective drama. At this time, Lu Tingxiao's cell phone rang. It was a text message from Ning Xi. After reading the content, the dangerous creature lurking in the depths of Lu Tingxiao's eyes became restless. Lu Jingli leaned over curiously. Little Xi's text message. What did she say? Why did his brother look like he had been cuckolded? Lu Tingxiao stared at the text message for a few seconds and then made a call. Ning Xi, who was in villa number 6, quickly answered, hello, Lu Tingxiao, what's up? Did you see the text I just sent? Remember to show it to Xiaobao? Yes, where are you? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ning Xi glanced at Zhang Wei, who was busy in the kitchen and claimed that he wanted to show off his cooking skills. I'm at Zhang Wei's place. I have something to discuss with him. Besides, he has just returned to China. Let's have dinner together to welcome him. Okay, got it. I'll be there later, Lu Tingxiao said calmly. Ning Xi was stunned on the other end of the phone. Ah, you're coming? What? Is there a problem? Lu Tingxiao asked coldly. No. Lu Tingxiao said it so matter-of-factly that she couldn't refute him. Seeing that Ning Xi was in a dilemma, Zhang Wei poked his head out and asked, what's wrong? Who called? Your uncle. He said he's coming over later. What did you say? The spoon in Zhang Wei's hand fell to the ground. Then he pointed at her and complained bitterly, Ning Xioxi, you said there's nothing going on between you and him. Why did you call him over when we were having dinner together? Calm down. Don't get angry so easily, okay? Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him. I didn't call him over. He asked me where I was just now. I told him that I was going to hold a dinner for you. Then he said he was coming over. Maybe as an elder, he felt that he should care about you, so he wanted to have dinner with you? That's quite logical. Zhang Wei threw the bowl on the ground. Nonsense. Do you think Lu Tingxiao is that kind of approachable person? He even wants to have dinner with me? My mom sometimes has to wait half a year for him to have dinner with her? He's the epitome of inhumane. Ning Xi threw a pillow at him impatiently. You unlucky boy. Can't I suddenly care about you? Why do you always associate me with Lu Tingxiao? Why do we look like people who can be associated with each other? Zhang Wei muttered to himself, it's a man's intuition. What do you know? While they were quarreling, the doorbell rang. Ning Xi gave Zhang Wei a warning look, signaling him not to talk nonsense. Then she got up and went to open the door. As soon as she opened the door, Ning Xi's eyes lit up with surprise because there was a little bun beside Lu Tingxiao. As soon as Xiaobao saw her, he opened his short little hands and threw himself at her. Ning Xi's heart melted. She quickly picked him up. "Baby, you're here too? Auntie was just sad that I couldn't have dinner with my baby tonight." In the room, Zhang Wei looked at Ning Xi, who was holding Xiaobao, and then at Lu Tingxiao, who was gazing at them dotingly. He had an illusion that they were a family of three. He had never expected that Ning Xi and Xiaobao's relationship was so harmonious. Xiaobao was an existence that was even more difficult to get close to than his father. As for Lu Tingxiao, his attitude towards Ning Xi was even weirder. Even if it was for Xiaobao, with Lu Tingxiao's personality, it was impossible for him to tolerate a strange woman living under the same roof as him. Hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here. Lu Jingli squeezed in with 2 bottles of wine in his hands. Looking at the 3 people of the Lu family, Ning Xi immediately gave Zhang Wei a look that said, "Look, they really came here to care about the younger generation. You're the only one who likes to think too much. First uncle, second uncle, Xiaobao is here too. Please come in." Even though Zhang Wei was unwilling, he could only invite the 3 of them in, who asked him to be a junior. After the 3 of them arrived, Zhang Wei had nothing to do. Lu Tingxiao invited a Michelin chef to cook for them, Lu Jingli brought 2 bottles of good wine from home, and Xiaobao occupied Ning Xi. The 5 of them sat around the table in a weird atmosphere. Fortunately, Lu Jingli was there, so there was no awkward silence. Everyone ate and chatted casually. "Come on, let's welcome our superstar back home. A toast to you? Thank you. By the way, I haven't had time to ask you. How did you meet Zixi?" Lu Jingli pretended to inadvertently inquire about the news for his brother. Hearing this question, Zhang Wei didn't look very happy. It seemed that he didn't want to talk about this topic. He answered vaguely, "I met her when I was studying abroad. We were schoolmates in the same year." Lu Jingli squinted at him and said meaningfully, "I don't think it's that simple. Don't tell me it's another ex-girlfriend that you dumped after you got her? After all, the women around you are either your mother or your fans, or your ex-girlfriends." Zhang Wei was speechless. Ning Xi burst into laughter and gave Lu Jingli a thumbs up. "Second master, you are so insightful. Oh, it seems that I guessed right," Lu Jingli said proudly. Sure enough, there was nothing in this world that he couldn't guess. "Only half of it," Zhang Wei retorted. What? What do you mean by only half?" Lu Jingli was puzzled. "Yes, she is my ex-girlfriend. But she chased me and dumped me," Zhang Wei said as he stared at Ning Xi with resentful eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Tingxiao, who was helping Ning Xi and Xiaobao cut the steak, blinked his eyes imperceptibly. Even Lu Jingli was shocked. After all, this was the first time that he had made a mistake. So he put his hands on the table and said excitedly, "No way. Is this for real? This is not scientific." When Ning Xi was abroad, she was not as ridiculous as Zhang Wei. So he always thought that it was Zhang Wei who proposed to break up with her. But he never expected that. Zhang Wei angrily poked a piece of pork rib. "If you don't believe me, you can ask her. Why did we have to talk about this again out of nowhere?" Ning Xi said helplessly, "This was purely an accident." Lu Jingli had evolved from simply asking for information for his brother to being a gossipy person. He asked curiously, "What's going on? Quick, tell me. Hurry, hurry, hurry." Zhang Wei was speechless. As an elder, is it really good for you to be so nosy about the private matters of the younger generation? Seeing Zhang Wei's angry face, Ning Xi didn't want to embarrass him in front of his elders, so she replied, "Nothing special. At that time, there were so many girls in our school who liked him, and I was just one of them. As for the reason why we broke up later, maybe I found that he was different from what I had imagined, so I was a little disillusioned." Ning Xi's words seemed to be normal, but Lu Jingli knew that things couldn't be that simple. Otherwise, Zhang Wei's expression wouldn't be like that. "Tisk, I'll get Zhang Wei to drink more later and see if I can get some information out of him." Because Xiaobao was here, Ning Xi didn't drink tonight. She felt a little bored sitting at the table after eating, so she asked, "Mr. Lu, can I take Xiaobao to play a game?" Lu Tingxiao nodded. "Go ahead." His tone seemed to be the same as Ning Xi's, but it gave people a feeling that he was gentler than others. Zhang Wei looked sad. That was clearly his game machine, the latest equipment that he had specially brought back. How could she ask another man for permission and take him to play, even if that man was only 5 years old? 2 hours later, Lu Jingli died gloriously. Before he passed out drunk, he still couldn't get a word out of Zhang Wei. In fact, Zhang Wei was already at his last gasp. He had been holding on until now because he knew that Lu Jingli wanted to get information out of him. He was really drunk to have such a gossipy uncle. He faintly felt that Lu Jingli seemed to have some other reasons for insisting on figuring out this matter. However, his brain was in a mess and he couldn't think of anything. Lu Tingxiao was the only one who was sober at the table. Lu Tingxiao called the butler to pick up Lu Jingli, and then he got up and walked to the living room. On the huge game screen was the word pass. Ning Xi and Xiaobao were lying on the sofa, sleeping soundly. Lu Tingxiao walked over with light steps. The girl was holding a white and soft little bun in her arms. Her sweet sleeping face made people want to give up all the fame and power and sleep with her until the end of time. In the restaurant, Zhang Wei saw Lu Tingxiao leaning toward Ning Xi in a daze. Lu Tingxiao was getting closer and closer to her. Zhang We's pupils constricted and he woke up immediately. Lu Tingxiao almost couldn't help kissing the girl's sleeping face, but he stopped at the last moment. He turned to Xiao Bao and gently woke him up. Xiao Bao rubbed his sleepy eyes and a tuft of hair on his head. He looked even more adorable than usual after he just woke up. Lu Tingxiao rubbed his little head. Can you walk by yourself? Xiao Bao nodded. Lu Tingxiao looked satisfied. Then he bent over and gently picked up Ning Xi, who was still sleeping. He looked down at Xiao Bao and said, let's go. Xiao Bao followed his papa obediently, not feeling anything wrong at all. Zhang Wei rubbed his eyes hard. He must be so drunk that he was hallucinating, right? He must be. Why was Lu Tingxiao behaving so mysteriously? He asked the butler to pick up his brother, woke up his sleeping son, but was careful not to wake up Ning Xi and carried her back himself. Watching Lu Tingxiao leave with Ning Xi in his arms and Xiao Bao, Zhang Wei was still in a daze. In the end, he fell on the table and finally passed out. In the Lu mansion, Xiao Bao wanted to sleep with Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Little Bun stuck out 5 fingers, implying that he was only 5 years old. Lu Tingxiao nodded. Very good. You know you're not a 3-year-old anymore, but a 5-year-old adult. Now go back to sleep. Little Bun. Lu Tingxiao's face became serious. Do you still want to be Aunt Xioxi's baby for the rest of your life? I can only keep her for 3 more months. If I can't marry her by then, she will leave you completely. Hearing this, little Bei's expression finally changed. She pursed her lips, reluctantly looked at Ning Xi, and finally walked away. Lu Tingxiao sighed softly. Although Xiao Bao was his greatest help, he was also his greatest obstacle. Fortunately, he had managed to convince him. Lu Tingxiao gently put Ning Xi on the bed, took off her shoes, and called the maid to help her change clothes. In a daze, Ning Xi felt that she had returned to the soft bed, and there was a vague figure in front of the bed. She reached out her hand sleepily and touched the familiar figure. Well, Lu Tingxiao, are you sleepwalking again? Lu Tingxiao was stunned for a moment, and then he covered her warm little hand with his big palm. Yes. Ning Xi frowned and murmured, this is an illness. I have to cure it. Lu Tingxiao chuckled and kissed her palm. Only you can cure it. Late at night, Shenxi Group's public relations department. Liang Fixing's personal phone suddenly rang while he was busy dealing with Su Yumo's drunken driving scandal. He was about to throw it aside impatiently, but when he saw the caller ID, he was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. He immediately sat up straight and picked up the call in a flurry. Hello, Boss Lu, I'm sorry? We're dealing with it right now. It'll be resolved by tomorrow night at the latest. What is it? The man's cold and distant voice came from the other end. Huh? It's about Su Yumo's drunken driving incident. You're not looking for me because of that? Liang Fixing was confused. Was the boss not calling him to denounce him? No. Liang Fixing breathed a sigh of relief. He was too busy. Boss Lu never interfered with Shenxi's affairs. Even if it involved Su Yumo, it was a big deal to them, but it wouldn't affect Lu Tingxiao at all. So, why was the boss looking for him at this time? Liang Fixing became even more uneasy. Then why are you looking for me? Make Jia Qingqing leave the entertainment industry within 24 hours. Lu Tingxiao gave an order. Jia Qingqing? Boss Lu, may I ask which Jia Qingqing is it? Starlight Entertainment. Liang Fixing's face was filled with shock. Was it the Jia Qingqing whose appearance was hyped up by Starlight Entertainment as the most beautiful woman in the entertainment industry? He had thought it was some big shot. Liang Fixing's face was filled with doubt, but he didn't dare to ask a single word. Okay, Boss Lu, I understand. As far as I know, Jia Qingqing has been arguing with a female artist from her company. The other party isn't easy to deal with. She has a lot of dirt on Jia Qingqing and knows how to get someone else to do her dirty work. She handed it over to a big V. Jia Qingqing has offended too many people. Now that she's down, it won't be easy for her to get away. But to force her to leave the entertainment industry, we'll need to add fuel to the fire. Do it secretly. Lu Tingxiao instructed. Yes, don't worry, Boss Lu. After hanging up, Liang Fixing immediately handed everything over to the deputy director and took care of the matter himself. The task this time was too easy. It was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Currently, the artist who was fighting with Jia Qingqing was 80% done. He just needed to give the final blow. He was just a second-rate artist. What did he do to make the big boss personally ban him? Liang Fixing could never guess that Lu Tingxiao's real purpose was not to ban Jia Qingqing, but to support Ning Xi, an actress who was even less famous than Jia Qingqing and whose name he couldn't even remember. The next morning, Ning Xi was confused when she woke up. Why was she lying in the Lu mansion? She clearly remembered that she played games with Xiaobao for 2 hours straight. In the end, she was so tired that she fell asleep on the sofa in Zhang We's living room. While he was still in a daze, he suddenly heard a bang from the window at the head of the bed. Ning Xi was startled and quickly got up to see what was going on. Then, as soon as he opened the window, he saw a golden head below. Ning Xi was speechless. Zhang Wei, what are you doing? Zhang Wei, who always paid attention to his image, was still wearing the same clothes from last night. Now it was wrinkled and his hair was messy. He said anxiously, Ning Xi, come down. I have something to talk to you about. Hurry up. Ning Xi sighed with a headache. She knew it wouldn't be a good thing if this guy found out that she lived here. How dare he come to smash her window so early in the morning? Just jump down, hurry up, don't pretend to be a lady, Zhang Wei urged her anxiously. Ning Xi twitched the corner of her mouth speechlessly. She put her hand on the windowsill and jumped down. Zhang Wei immediately pulled her over and spun her around several times to see if there were any ambiguous marks on her body. Then he stared at her with burning eyes. Did anything happen last night? Ning Xi almost fainted. She said angrily, Zhang Wei, why are you not sleeping so early in the morning? I was sleeping. What could have happened to you? The blue veins on Zhang Wei's forehead bulged. Ning Xi, are you a pig? Don't tell me you don't know how you came back last night? I really don't know, Ning Xi said innocently. Zhang Wei took a deep breath to calm himself down. He gritted his teeth and said, you're so stupid. Why haven't you been sold? It was Lu Tingxiao who carried you back last night. Ning Xi was a little stunned and then said disapprovingly, so what? It must be that Xiaobao begged his dad to carry me back because he didn't want to wake me up? It was the same in the bar. Except for Lu Tingxiao, Xiaobao didn't allow anyone to touch her, so she didn't think it was a big deal. Zhang Wei was furious. Ning Xi, can't you be more careful? Lu Tingxiao is obviously interested in you, okay? Ning Xi let out a long sigh and then put her hands on Zhang Wei's shoulders. She said earnestly, brother, my journey is the sea of stars. I won't stop for any flowers or grass. So even if you kneel down and beg me to be your aunt, I won't give you this chance, okay? Please don't be paranoid. Go back and sleep. Zhang Wei had a complicated feeling when he heard this. He was relieved and stared at her with a complicated look. Are you really going to stay single for the rest of your life? What if you meet someone you like? Ning Xioxi, this idea is very dangerous, don't you know? Let me tell you, although career is also very important, for a woman, marriage is. Ning Xi couldn't bear it anymore and kicked him. Zhang Wei, are you done? Are you picking on me? I think you haven't been beaten for a long time. You just beat him up the day before yesterday. I obviously didn't beat you enough last time. Today, I will beat you into submission. Let's see if you still dare to talk nonsense all day long. Ning Xi rolled up her sleeves and was about to make a move. Zhang Wei covered his head and scurried away. Suddenly, he looked behind her and said, Uncle. Ning Xi sneered, save? Even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you? Before Ning Xi's devil claw fell, Zhang Wei shouted, no, it's my uncle. Ning Xi's back stiffened. She turned her head mechanically and saw Lu Tingxiao standing there in his sportswear against the light. His skin was dripping with sweat. It looked like he had just finished his morning jog. Ning Xi, who had been caught beating Zhang Wei's nephew, rolled her eyes and immediately pointed at Zhang Wei, saying, Mr. Lu, this guy came to smash your window early in the morning. I found him, so I was going to beat him up for you. Zhang Wei was stunned. Zhang Wei glared at her. Shameless. How dare you say you didn't smash my window? Ning Xi said sternly. Lu Tingxiao reached out and removed a strand of grass from the girl's hair. Then, he rubbed her head in a very natural manner. Don't mess around. Go wash up. It's time for breakfast. Oh, right away. Ning Xi made a face at Zhang Wei proudly and skipped away. At this moment, Zhang Wei wanted to grab Ning Xi and yell at her. Once, twice, 3 times? Lu Tingxiao has already made it so obvious. Are your titanium alloy dog eyes blind?